if there is anyone. But I had some technical issues before we were starting. The time might be a little bit odd, and there is cat around here. Uh, wait, my
Hey, you've got a cat. I've got monkeys here, so I'd rather the cat than the monkeys.
But do you have the monkey as the pet?
Not as a pet, not as a pet, but basically they literally just show up right there and yeah, just break things and steal things and steal my shampoo every couple of days or so.
Because you
It's
live
quite
in
funny.
Bali. I was there.
Yeah, I live in Bali.
Wait, now Meow is jumping on the desk. It will be pretty chaotic. But there was once that Meow completely ruined my interview. I had the interview with Daniel Huang from Steakfish, and it's like
Yeah.
very serious, but the cat was getting like crazy in the background. And then my mother-in-law came knocking the doors and asking for something. So like the fails happen.
Yeah.
That's actually my
Yeah.
Polish friend. um Let me share this. Is Eclipse being built on Juno, or it will be sovereign chain?
It will start on Juno and it will eventually go to Sovereign Chain, but
So I'm
not for
gonna
a while.
yeah, I'm gonna drop it in the Juno Discord then. Now leave the desk. But I prepared myself for this chat to be chaotic. Sorry.
It's cool. I like it. I like the chaos as well. Don't worry. I'm
Yeah,
able to
Meow,
talk
you go
shit too.
there.
So
You like to be there. Meow, you stay here. You like it here.
we
Um,
got Rama in the house.
yeah, we
How you
got Rarma.
doing,
So
fellow
Rarma,
Aussie?
like the chaos is because I couldn't set up my camera and we are late and it's everything wrong. Okay, now you want to go there? If Meow will bother us, I will kick her out. But yeah, Rarma,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Aussie guys, because you're also Australian. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yep.
you live in Bali, right?
I live in Bali. Yeah, a little place called Uluwatu.
Uluwatu.
No,
After
no, he didn't blame me this time. No, Don didn't blame me. It's camera issues.
no, yeah, my Uluwatu. I think I was there, man. Because I was in Bali, and Bali is one of the favorite place of mine and my wife. I'm actually searching
Really?
Uluwatu. I was probably just taking the scooter there. Um,
Yep.
Uluwatu is on the south.
Yeah, it's a little peninsula down at the bottom. It's
Yeah.
it's a lot less dirty. It's Canggu for me and Kuta and stuff are a little bit too chaos and dirty for me. So Uluwatu is a little bit quieter. It's a surf place and it's got nicer beaches and it's a little bit quieter. Good restaurants still. It's a good kind of location and but yeah, it's a bit nicer than Canggu. Canggu's like sensory overload.
I would expect it would be busy. So this is one spot I have not been to. So we started from Seminyak because people said
Okay.
like Kuta is just like for drunk Aussies are there. Like
Like
it's just like
Australians, pretty
don't
much, yeah.
go there, like people say. So anyway, we went to Seminyak. We didn't go to Kangu, yeah? Have you
Canggu, yeah.
Kangu? We didn't go, but then we went to like up north for diving.
Ubud, maybe? Oh, okay.
No, we went up north. Like I'm searching. There is the abandoned ship. You help me.
I don't know. I haven't been there. I don't leave my house.
Right.
I should, but
I will get that at the end. And then we went to Ubud, and I absolutely loved Ubud. Like people would say it's maybe touristy. Like it was just fine. Like I really liked it. It was peaceful, and we had this really nice villa with the bath and nice bed. And how long you've been living there and why?
I moved in about August. I've been wanting to move to Bali for a long time, but for maybe those that don't know, we had really strong border restrictions in Australia, so we couldn't
Yeah.
actually leave the country for about 3 years. So when the borders opened back up in about May, I went to consensus in the US and went overseas. And when I came back, I was like, I'm going to move to Bali. I love where I live on the Gold Coast in Australia, but I wanted to change. When you've gone through kind of COVID and then you've worked through the entire even through the bull run and stuff. I spent a lot of time inside and wanting to kind of change it up a little bit, change up the scenery.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't getting a lot of sun or anything like that. So I was like, okay, I'll move to Bali. And it's pretty cheap to live here. It's not far from Australia. And it's a different change in lifestyle. I mean, the same sort of thing up here. I still spend a lot of time. It's obviously crypto building. You don't have. Um, it's not like coming to Bali and then being on holiday here. I still kind of live here and spend most of my time working. But it's still nice to be able to spend 30 minutes at the pool, at lunch, or go have a massage or do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get more, like we were talking about this before, like moving your body and doing some stuff, because otherwise you just end up in this place where you actually
Mm-hmm.
get stuck and your productivity drops and maybe your brain doesn't work as well because
Mm-hmm.
you get stuck in front of you just get stuck in this zone. So just trying to bring a bit more of this sort of stuff to my life so that I'm actually bringing a little bit more, although balance is a bit of a myth, bringing a little bit more balance.
Mm-hmm. You rent in a villa, or
Yep.
because I'm
Yep. I've
saying
got a
villa
villa
like
here in
it's
Uluwatu.
just like the places are usually called villa even it's like 2 bedrooms, right, and the pool, or
Two-bedroom house, yeah. Two-bedroom house with a pool, that's basically like
do
yeah,
you mind
that's
sharing
basically it. I mean, it's actually cheap.
how much you pay
Yeah, it's like what, 2K Australian a month or something? So maybe US, I don't know, you probably use US dollars, so like,
probably 1.5 or even
um
less, right?
yeah, maybe 1.5. Yeah, a bit less. Yeah, 1.4 depends on the
Yeah.
rate. I mean, it varies a lot here. Like, you can spend a lot more or you can spend a lot less. Like, it just depends on where you live, the kind of place, the time. It's a lot more expensive now to live in Bali, like,
Oh.
than it used to be. If you look at, like, obviously since the borders opened up, a lot of people have kind of moved to Bali and it pushed the prices up. But I mean, there's still really cool options around. You could probably get a decent
Yeah.
place for like 1,000 US, with like maybe a complex with shed pool and a villa
Yeah.
not too far from
Like I'm
good
checking it's probably like
location. So
sorry, yeah.
no, keep going.
Yeah, like I checked, it's probably like 1.3 or something. So like it's not that cheap for the level of economical development of Bali, but I would assume this place become very popular since COVID for the nomads, right? Like so it's like flood of the I was
Yeah,
there like 4 years ago, I think. Um
yeah.
and
Canggu, you'll find it hard in Canggu to find something for less than maybe like
yeah,
2.5K
yeah.
US, or something decent for less than 2K US or 2.5. Like, it's just, it's kind of like a byproduct of inflation right now. We've kind of, the whole world is going up. I mean, I've been to Europe and I've just been to like South America, and like even there, all the prices are
Yeah.
rising like at a very rapid rate. Tourism, hotels in Europe right now are mental. And it's the same here. I mean, like, there's a lot of agents have kind of gotten together and they've all gone like, let's put the prices up, and so everything becomes expensive, and then people are paying it because it's still cheap compared to the rest of the world,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of Americans coming over, a lot of from overseas, they're used to paying so much more in some tourist destinations. So they come when everything else is pretty cheap in Bali, but then accommodation is actually
Yeah.
gone up through the roof.
Did you
So
consider
yeah,
another spot? Because also like next to Bali, you have Lombok, right? Like many people going to Lombok now as this
yeah.
less developed. Did you consider other places?
Yeah, I still wanted something that had good access, easy
Mhm.
access. One that I did consider was Thailand, because Thailand is still quite nice and there's
Yeah.
some lifestyle. Only thing is, I'm a surfer, even though I haven't been surfing very much. I am a surfer, and so for me, Thailand is kind of like I'm at the beach, but there's no waves, so
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
kind of a funny one. So Bali for me has always kind of had a really good vibe. The people are really friendly here. Like, the people are really happy and really
Yeah.
friendly, and it's got really good vibes overall. Sure, there's some places are dirty and some stuff is like not as amazing, and you're in a third world country. Like, I had Bali belly last night. I've been really lucky to actually recover from it pretty quickly. But it's not a first world country. It's
Yeah.
still a third
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
country at the
Yeah.
end of the day. And it's
Yeah.
still,
I thought
yeah,
I always like, well, not really, because I've been like moving around a lot. So like first time you move, you get the bad belly. Like that's just the I'm also like
yeah,
easy to recover. Like I have like this high metabolism. Like sorry for like like
yeah,
but it's like I will be sick for like 1 day and then I'm back to normal.
yeah,
Um yeah, like I also like the Thailand. Thailand has nicer beaches, like because it's sand beaches. Bali has like stone beaches, but you can surf. And in Thailand,
Coral, yeah, coral.
um,
Uluwatu is still nice though. Where I live is kind of what happens is you get the coral reef,
mhm,
and then you have like sand, and then there's usually a gap between the coral reef and the sand. So the beach is still pretty white.
yeah,
And so it's not the same as swimming in an ocean that has lots of waves on the beach, but you could still swim as a swimmer. There's still kind of pockets and pools, so it's cool,
yeah,
quite nice. But then the waves and the surfers, it's kind of past the
yeah.
coral. It's like over on the reef. So it's much not Canggu's like black sand or Seminyak's like black sand. It's
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
same stuff.
yeah. So I was there
Uluwatu's
with
pretty
my
nice
wife,
too.
and it's like just black, this kind of stone. Like, so if I come with my wife, will you teach us surfing? Because I suck. Like, I tell you, you know what has also good? It's Sri Lanka, south of Sri Lanka,
Yes, Sri Lanka's very good.
but like you don't get the same lifestyle as in Bali. It's not even comparable.
I wouldn't live in Sri Lanka. No, like, I mean, Sri Lanka's nice and for surfing, but in terms of long-term living,
Yeah,
I see it like probably not the same ability to kind of live like with internet and all this
yeah,
sort of stuff. It's probably not. Even Bali a couple of years ago was pretty bad with internet. I think my internet's actually been a lot better now. So I mean, you need this for digital nomad life. Like if you're doing these videos or you're doing any kind of stuff, you need to be
yeah,
like you need to have decent internet, and there's many countries that don't have
yeah.
that. So and it's also the stuff like if you get sick, what do you do? Like, um, I mean, over there you could probably get like worse Bali belly or dengue
Mhm,
fever. Like what happens, right? Like, so I mean, here I'm like 6 hours away from home. I can jump on a plane, head home if I need to. Like, if there's an emergency or whatever. So it's still kind of nice,
mhm.
like to be kind of close to stuff. But yeah, I recommend it. I think there's going to be a big crypto hub in Bali. It's growing a lot. The government's getting a lot more engaged with crypto
Yeah,
projects. I've been, meeting a lot of DeFi up in Canggu, and it's becoming an up and coming kind of place. I think, especially now that Portugal's putting tax on crypto, and
it was
Bali's
expected.
going tax free.
Mhm. Oh, is it? I'm gonna move there then with
Yeah.
my wife.
6
Um,
months at the moment. There's a digital nomad visa. I think it's 6 months tax-free, and they're working on a 5-year one, which would be like a tax-free, for money earned outside of Bali. So they're working on that. It's still kind of proposed. The 6 months one's live. I think I'm still not on it because there's a whole bunch of stuff I need to do
yeah.
for it, but the other one's good because tax in Australia is a nightmare, and I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, so are you on the tourist one now? Just tourist or
I'm just on tourist. I just go because I've kind of been on the kind of conference tour or coming in and out. So what I do is I do 30 days, I extend it, but then
mhm,
you could do like visa runs where you go over to Thailand or you go overseas and you
yeah.
come back.
Well,
I've just extended this one and I'll go back to Australia to visit the family and then I'll come back.
yeah, I mean, like, I live this way, and I had friends living in Bali this way on tourist visa. Like everyone does that, right? Like, but in Hong Kong, I lived for like 3 years. Shit, I need to send the papers for the visa. And in Hong Kong, I lived for 3 years on tourist visa till the COVID hit, and I left, and I couldn't
Mhm.
come back for 2 years, right? So
Oh,
that was like you
yeah,
mentioned dengue. My friend got dengue in Bali, you know, uh,
damn.
as well.
That's
So
scary, man. That is scary. Like the thought of like there's mosquitoes everywhere as well. It's not too
yeah,
bad down here. I actually have not too many mosquitoes, but when I was
mhm,
in Canggu, they're everywhere, right? So
yeah, like you have to sleep with the nets. I tell you the
no, they're not too bad actually. Like if your house is well kind of sealed, then you don't
mhm,
have that problem. But I think
right,
if you've got a more open place, then the mosquitoes get in, and you probably have to use some stuff.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. GM. What I like about Bali, and like also what I like, they don't have food culture like Sri Lanka is pretty shithole. Like like the food you get for breakfast is like bread and some stuff. Like it's but Bali had this like big nomad culture that it actually developed nice food. Like you can eat really good especially vegetables, because Bali also have like volcanic soil. The best coconut I
It's
had in
not
my life, I no.
it's not as good as Europe though. Like the vegetables here are pretty poor quality in general. Fruit's really good, but I found like
Mhm.
European vegetables are much superior than the vegetables in Bali. And I'd be really careful about
Okay,
eating salads here as well because you could get Bali belly from that.
yeah, sorry, like I said vegetables. I have to say I had the best coconut of my life in Bali. I had best banana of my life. which are fruits, right? I cannot speak of the vegetables really. So, but the fruits like really like are amazing. Like I like the short, thick banana, like great in Bali. I do really like it.
Can,
So,
can, can we capture that? That could be a clip.
the
Don
short,
likes the short, thick bananas.
yeah, the short, thick bananas, like they're really good. How they, I know what you ate that, but and like I can't be ever bothered to clip something. I should have someone to do it, but I'm too small. Um, Maybe soon me and my wife will fly to Bali. I saw the what's the guy from Stay Club? You
Yeah,
met guys. He's there.
yeah, yep. ZDX, yeah, yeah. I met him in Canggu. Actually, I was up in Canggu. We hung out with those guys. Absolute legends. Like really cool.
Yeah.
Really good energy, and I speak French as well, so we're able to speak in French with those guys. So it was cool to hang out. I was going to catch
How
up with
come?
Crypto like Mo, but he got Bali belly as well and couldn't kind of make it. So
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him. I'm blocked by him. We are like had arguments, but I know he lives in Bali. Um, but what I was how come you speak French? Like the people whose like language is usually English, they don't really. Um, it's rare that
I was born there.
someone. Oh, you
I'm
were
actually native
born.
French, so yeah, I'm not
Oh,
Australian, but well, I am Australian, but my parents Australian were living in France, so I was actually born there and lived there for maybe the first 12 years of my life. So my
right.
actual my actual natural language is French, even though it's a bit rusty right now. Like I'm fluent in French because that was my schooling language. But then I obviously lost my French accent and I speak English like fluently now.
And you have like Australian accent a little bit. So
Yeah. But I sound posh. That's probably because of the French upbringing. Everyone's like, you sound British or you sound like it's funny.
well, I'm bad with the accents anyway. But so you have two passports, right?
No, I don't. So France, the way that France works is it's citizenship by descent. So if your parents are French, then you get the French passport. But if they're not, then you don't get French nationality. So even though I lived there for a long time, I don't actually
Wow.
have French nationality. If I lived there till I was 18, I would have had the option to get it, but
Yeah.
because I didn't, so yeah,
Okay, but
it's one
like
of
there
those
is
things.
that's weird. I thought it is because Europe is easy to get passport actually. For example, like I have wife from Hong Kong now, so if we move to Poland, she lives in Poland for 2 years. She can apply for Polish citizenship and passport. But for example,
Wow.
most of the Asia is as you said, the citizenship by descent. So I never can
Yeah.
get like actually, and even like in Hong Kong, I could live forever here. I cannot because to get Hong Kong passport, you have to be Chinese national. There's only few ways to
Right.
be Chinese national. You have to have Chinese blood, or you have to have
Interesting.
some good achievements for Chinese for China, right? So
Right.
I'm disqualified, and also
So when
China.
PhD, when PhD, Don,
Well, I have high school diploma, so I
Doctor Don Kryptonium, that's got a
yeah.
ring to it, right? Doctor
It's not
Don.
gonna happen. But I might go with this title. But I think most of the countries in Asia are actually ethnostates, so you cannot really get citizenship anywhere.
Makes
Oh,
sense.
it's I have Polish people.
There you go.
Yeah, like I have Polish accents. Oh, nice. We have Polish
I
people.
thought you were
I'm
German.
thinking.
I thought you were I thought you were German. I probably
Yeah,
should say that.
no, I'm Polish. I live 1 hour from Germany. There's big German community in Cosmos, like Cryptocito, the Friends validator, and
Yep.
yeah, they are Germans. We had a little bit of fallout before, Simon.
Yeah, I would say fallout. I mean,
No,
I would say like disagreements or differences in opinions, but I mean
yeah,
that's Cosmos, right? Like
yeah.
basically the whole Cosmos disagrees all the times and then makes up again. So
Yeah, like I mean, this is the funniest community now. Like I love the tweet, right? And maybe you see it the same way. Like there is no choice now in crypto beyond Cosmos. I mean, you have choice. There is networks with a lot of money, and there is like
yeah,
Aptos. Solana, there is maybe Sui, there's like others like Near, but
Near's
those,
interesting. Near's fairly interesting as well.
yeah, I think the Near is on the out there, like that's still interesting because all the rest is like actually like FTX. Like, why would
Yeah,
anyone like do that to them,
Alameda.
right? Like, like why would you, if you want to have your sovereign network, you're just going to go on Cosmos and choose different route because like it almost sounds not cool to say like, hey, I invested in Solana, right?
Yeah,
it's like I
yeah,
invested in the thing that I don't know, Chama Palihapatia invested and all of those VCs and FTX. It's like why?
yeah,
Like it just sounds like you are a sucker at this point.
yeah.
Well, how was your
There's a
coming?
couple.
Mhm.
I'm interested in like maybe Immutable X. I've got some friends that are really big in crypto gaming, and IMX Immutable
Ow,
X seems to be
ow,
doing a fair bit of good stuff on gaming.
sorry.
Um, oh, did she
Yeah,
bite you?
yeah, yeah. You little, you're not gonna.
Counter
Uh,
cat.
what's the
You right?
ticker? Yeah, what's the ticker?
IMX Immutable X. Immutable X. I think it's
Oh yeah,
Ethereum layer 2.
yeah.
And
It's on
seem to be doing
Ethereum,
some
you
cool
know.
stuff.
So yeah, like you have also choice that is Ethereum. Like I am
Yeah,
like I don't see like leaving Ethereum for other VCs network. It's not the point. But
yeah,
yeah,
agreed.
like
I
what?
like Polygon potentially as well, but I've still
Mhm.
got doubts about some stuff on Polygon. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there will be other networks as well, but I'm really bullish on Cosmos in general. I mean,
Mhm.
I see like so much. I actually talk to a lot of people behind the scenes, like a lot of VCs and a lot of things, and there's a lot of focus moving to Cosmos. There's a lot more than people even anticipate. Like I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot more talk in kind of the open around like Cosmos, but it's really accelerating now in terms of like even whether you like VCs or not, there's still talk about that from behind the scenes. And I think we do need VCs from some
Mhm.
capacity. I think in terms of money and liquidity, like bringing institutional money in and all this sort of stuff is important. But it's just about like picking good VCs. And I think as a project, and this is actually a really big thing that many maybe don't know
Mhm.
around like VCs when you're picking who your investors are for your project is a really like you almost have to do vetting on them and due diligence on them to make sure that they're good VCs and not going to dump on your ass
Yeah.
and that they bring value. And but the problem is in the bull run, it kind of the lines got a bit blurred. So there's a lot of projects that ended up
Mhm.
with really bad VCs, especially smaller VCs that were kind of like just kind of became VCs. But I think there's some good education to come around like the importance of VCs and the drawbacks that you don't need to raise VC capital
Mhm.
and raising money for the sake of raising money probably isn't the best. But there's times in which if you can bootstrap to a certain size to raise a specific valuation, VCs can bring a lot of value in some shape or form.
Yeah.
So I think there's some good conversations around that. But it's a funny juggle, right?
This is really good take. Like I'm not against like VCs overall, but this is good take that you said about the bull market, and especially what happened with DAO chains that were launching on Ethereum, on Polkadot. And there is one YouTuber you probably know because I know you are very fluent in the space, which is Crypto Banter. Uh,
Yep. Crypto
and
banter. Yeah.
and people around him, they also have their own venture capital, and they were investing in all of these shitcoins. Maybe not all of them were shitcoins, but a lot of shitcoins. And all they were doing, they were later promoting them and dumping on the retail. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So this was, for example, my problem with Kujira. Like, because I look at Kujira and all the VCs are exactly the result of the bull run new upcoming VCs,
Yeah.
which was big
But
misjudgment from my side because I had few sentences
But I,
exchanged with
I
them.
actually love the Kajira guys. I actually love the Kajira guys. Like I was with them in Portugal
Mhm.
and Dove and Brett and those guys, and they're actually legends. Like really, really good guys with
Yeah,
really
that's
good
why I'm
heart.
saying
But
I
they did
misjudged
have
them.
issues.
Like, but like with the and they said they're not really happy and they waiting for final unlock of the VCs to be finally free of that. But yeah, the space suffered of that. Like just these VCs get like super cheap tokens, big allocations, and it's just dumping. But of course, like you do have the good ones. I would be like, maybe you want to avoid people like FTX and stuff, because yeah, like you will be listed everywhere, and that's great for you. Like if you
Mhm.
want money, but you ending up in the pocket, and giving up the sovereignty of the chain, right? So.
Yeah, there's a couple of things, right? Like, there's greed that can set in. So there's like, you get led by a big VC and they're going to go and raise,
Mhm.
$100 million. Some people get kind of blindsided by that. They're like, okay, we're going to go raise 100, $200 million at a ridiculous valuation,
Yeah,
and suddenly, like, it becomes kind of exit liquidity because you've raised so much money. Look at Aptos, right? You've raised at a ridiculous valuation. Then
300
you've got
million,
kind of,
right? Who needs that? Why?
yeah, it was,
Why you
I
need
don't
that
know.
money? You haven't launched anything.
Because you can, like, it's just this funny kind of VC game where, like,
Yeah.
everybody wants in the round and they raise this massive valuation. It's kind of like sometimes a bit of a pyramid as well, like where you've got round one, round two, round three. So
Mhm.
the early VCs want to raise at a high valuation, and they kind of lead this round, and then, yeah, it's a mess of a game, but I think it's also up to like, not up to retail, but it's up to us to kind of like navigate
Mhm.
like raises and platforms where people get overhyped with like projects that are raising at high
Mhm.
valuations, and they ape into this stuff and become exit liquidity. Whereas I think education is important around this. I think in
Mhm.
terms of VCs, like, there's a few kind of different categories, right? Like, the problem is with a smaller project, they can kind of get desperate for investors, especially if they're not experienced with like, venture capital and how to pitch and all this sort of stuff. They get someone that offers them, 200K
Mhm.
or 300K to invest in their project, especially in a bull run. It's like, oh, I've never raised money before. Like, I'm going to take this opportunity, rather than going, hey, the VC rounds isn't about money. I mean, but money's important, but actually, it's about like, it's all about like strategic contacts and strategic
Mhm.
alignment. Like, when I'm looking at VCs, I want to see like, who are their contacts? Can they get me listed in places? Like, are they going to bring value and add me as a founder? Because a lot of founders, like, there's so much you have to learn as well, right? So they almost act as an advisor or partner, and that's kind of
Mhm.
what you're looking for. But it is hard, even in this market. It's really tough because when you're fundraising, it's like you have to go through so many more VC meetings to fill your round, that it's like you're more likely to take money that's easier, and then you may end up with a VC that's bad. But a lot of the bad VCs also came through the bull run because a lot of people have made a lot of money on a
Mhm.
shitcoin or on something, and then they set up a VC, right? And they're suddenly a VC, but they're looking to accelerate their growth rapidly. So what they do is they pump and dump, or they sell stuff because they want to make their money fast to grow their fund.
Yeah.
Where sometimes like good quality long-term investor may have like a bet like for 10 years, right? They won't even sell the tokens because they're like looking 10 years in the track, and they only invest in stuff that is like really long term.
Mhm. Mhm. I just want to tell, like, if someone can comment, because I just blocked someone. Like, was like there's someone just sharing the well, it's
Is
the
it's
the
fine one? I see it now.
yeah. So like, and it seems my chat was completely restarted. So I just want to know if it's like, if I blocked all chat, or just this person, or maybe
I
I
can see
can
the
do.
chat, but it's still there. I can see it. Sexfine.xyz is still there.
Yeah, but I think it's blocked. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks good now.
Patrick, thank you. You are great. Um, I'm
No problem, I'm blocked.
I want to know about you, Simon. How did
Yeah.
you? Well, you guys are amazing. Everyone is commenting, like, because like, I only know you for like recent months, because I was not in Terra. Like, I don't know where did you come from. If you are like a few months ago got into crypto space, or actually you were in crypto before. Like, I don't know anything about you, so just like want to know a little bit.
Yeah, I'll give you a bit of backstory. I've been in crypto since about 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I actually played in the early days of Bitcoin, back in 2012, but I'd mined it off my computer, but never actually kept any Bitcoin or anything. Got back in 2016, 2017, went through the run, went through that chaos. That was, 2017 bull run down to 2018. I've got some funny stories. I know we like don't have masses of time, but I've got some fun stories of like, buying a huge bag of Tron, for example, going 10 times. And I went over to Nepal for a month because my bags were down and I wanted to like get rid of my phone for a whole month. So basically went to the Himalayas, became a monk, didn't become a monk, but I went trekking for a month just so that my bags would be like, I was hoping to come back and then turn my phone on and then my, bags would be back up. So there's some fun stories, especially now that we're in a bear. Like, I can put like so many good contrasts back on, 2018 bear market and what we're in right now, because there's people coming through this cycle now that I've been through so many of these cycles through 2000 and 2000 and, 2016, 2017. So many scams. We had the ICO boom, Salt and like EOS and all these kind of platforms. It's kind of funny to look back and just there's so many cycles, and humans don't learn from mistakes, right? Like all the stuff that happened in 2017 just happened again in this bull run, but it was just
Hmm.
worse, right? So during that time,
Back
I
then
was
was
working in
way
sales
worse, right?
marketing.
What happened then was just way worse, right? Or you say this time?
Different, right? So
Ye-
2017 was worse because of the
Yeah.
ICOs, the way the ICO boom happened, there was a lot of scams and there was a lot less
Hmm.
ability to regulate. There was a lot of real bad scams, and a lot of people lost a lot of money and got burnt. But the scale was still smaller compared to this run. Like
Hmm.
the meme coins went a lot crazier in this run, right? Like
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
Dogecoin and Shiba and like NFTs and stuff got like completely wild, right?
Mhm.
So it was kind of like accentuated. There was a lot. I think there was. I mean, there was still scams in NFTs, right? There was so many rug pulls in NFTs. But I think from a like an ICO scam, it was more 2017 was like ICO scams, and this one was probably more a little bit more around like rug pulls, shit coins, a lot of
Mhm.
Binance chain stuff. Copy paste code, and NFTs, and then the rise of the L1 copycat copy paste.
Mhm.
VC pump and dump is a lot higher in this thing. It's just like, hey, I'm going to set up another L1. We're going to set up a DEX. We're going to do this, and then we're going to
Yeah.
have the same thing as every other chain. Which is some of my issues. Like maybe with Cosmos, not too much, but like I think there's this kind of idea. I think that having multiple L1s that each have their own DEX and like this hundreds of these, and they kind of copy paste the same kind of DApps is not, maybe the best thing in the world. But that's a whole nother story.
Well, yeah, like I said 2017-18 was worst, but maybe it's like for me because I was in this bull market, I was mainly in Cosmos. So for me the
Mm,
drawback is like way smaller because in 2017 like I was actually watching the Bitcoin since December 2016. I was poor guy, so it's not that I was watching and I would make a lot. I was like it was $1,000 and like the biggest I could maybe afford was 1,000. That's what my savings. I didn't get that. I was looking for Bitcoin going up,
yeah.
and around December, like it was the craziness happened. You mentioned Tron, like which was like 100x in 1 month, right? Like there was
It was crazy.
Cardano appeared. Cardano went to like $30 billion valuation. It was just white paper, nothing else. Like so, that's like
Mm,
it was all of this craziness. I remember the guys who were doing like the car content, like they had garage, they start making crypto content. So that was like pretty funny space. And I bought some coins. I think I bought like in December, like spent maybe 1,400 or something. And it was like Elf. Coin was Elf. I
yep,
remember I was
yep.
buying Digibyte. I was following the what's the guy who died? McAfee. McAfee.
McAfee,
Like
yeah, yeah,
he was
McAfee.
doing the shilling every day, and I was just waiting, and I was just being dumped on. So this 1,400, like I remember, it turned to like $30 or something later on, like which was like
Yeah,
just like
wow.
shows you the drawback that was there. Um,
It's crazy, and it always goes on longer than you imagine too. Like even in
mhm.
this bull run, I was like, when is this going to pull back? Like, and then we were seeing Shiba and Dodge and stuff pump like crazy, and I'm like, when is
Yeah,
this? When is everything going to actually pull back? Because it went on like crazy. Like this bull run was nuts. I mean, we had kind of the DeFi summer, right? That went crazy,
yeah,
and then we had shitcoin pumps,
hmm,
and then we had NFTs,
yeah,
right? And then we've had metaverse as well that went
and
crazy. I
then we had
remember I was
Cosmos.
actually. Eh?
And then we had
Yeah,
Cosmos after everything. Like that was like there was
yeah,
so many, but yeah, good. Like DeFi summer in 2020, right? When it started and
yeah.
Ethereum pumped for like yeah, like I
Yeah,
missed on all of it.
Wi-Fi and man, that was wild, man. Compound
Mhm.
and Wi-Fi and stuff. I remember that, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" I was like, "These things are going crazy." I remember like, I think it was Wi-Fi, YFI got listed on like
Mhm.
Binance and just went crazy, and people were talking about like DeFi summer, and then we had the food named things like sushi and hot dog and like all these
Yeah,
coins that like they came like named after food. It was, I mean, it's so funny to go back. It's the nostalgia is crazy, right?
yeah. My wife might disturb us, like, but maybe not because she just came from work. She might not know I'm doing. Yeah, I remember year in finance at 80K. And I missed all that because I was holding Atom, and Atom in the DeFi summer went from like 4 to 9 or something like this. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
wow.
I'm having live chat. You can wave maybe. No, okay, bye bye. You can take me out. Okay.
It's all right.
Okay. I missed on that. Like on DeFi summer, I was holding Atom. And I was holding on Coinbase. So I bought Atom in March 2020, and I was holding it on Coinbase for 1 year. So I missed on the osmosis snapshot. And in DeFi summer, everything pumped like crazy, but my Atom went from like 4 to 8, and I didn't understood why on on that little, or to 9 was the peak, something like this. And I was seeing
Yeah,
all of that, and I missed on this whole. I mean, missed. It was the wife.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny, but like, yeah, it's just good to reminisce because I've been through every like. I mean, I was engaged in crypto the whole entire time, right? Like, I made lots of money, I lost lots of money. I was
Mhm.
engaged from 2017 to now, right, in crypto. So I saw all the pumps, all the even the cycles within the grander cycles. I remember, like Neo pumping, like the Neo run where like
Yeah.
China said that like crypto was they're going to adopt crypto or something, and then suddenly like everything pumped, and then everything dumped, and then there was the whole I remember the whole like COVID crash too. That was crazy, right? With crypto just completely like spiraling out of control. It's just kind of funny, like how many cycles you go through, and it's like
Mhm.
you kind of get better with every cycle, but you still see like the kind of human nature cycles that like we are kind
Yeah.
of monkeys at the end of the day, right? Like,
Yeah.
and this is almost a frustration for me because I was really big on education, and a whole big thing in this last cycle was like I want to help people not get burned like I did in 2017. But the reality is that it was going to happen anyway, no matter how much you educate. Like in some shape or form, people are getting burned because they get greedy or their emotions take over. I mean, even Luna, like when Luna collapsed, I had so many people message me say, "Should I buy Luna?" I
Mhm.
was like, "No, do not buy Luna." They went and bought $1 Luna, and without realizing how the
Mhm.
mechanism worked, right? Um, and so it's quite funny, and it's even for us, like even for me, like I mean, I got wrecked on Luna, and I should have known better, right? It's something that I should have known better, but it's easy to get siloed. I mean, I was building the education for the entire Terra
Mhm.
ecosystem through, the Loop Learn stuff that TFL sponsored. So I was so much like in the trenches around like just so ingrained in like this is a daily thing that it's really hard to kind of become objective around like
Mhm.
taking in all this external information. If you spend the entire world in like one little kind of bubble and one little environment, like your biases go through the roof. So it's quite interesting, and it's something that I believe massive in risk management, and I was really big on risk management. But even in the Luna crash, like I got hit pretty hard because all my eggs, it's not just my financial eggs, but my like time was being spent in an
Mhm.
ecosystem, and then you kind of like all your biases just take over. So quite interesting, right? And this happens to humans all over and over and over, right?
This is so beautiful. You said, like, my friends, they literally like lost millions in Luna Crash. I had the lunatic just before Luna Crash on my channel. We were discussing what if it collapsed, and the confidence of his was incredible. So yeah, of course he lost more because as time was progressing, my friends was putting more to this one basket. And when it
Yeah,
crashed, they were 100% in Luna. Like this was like like it's. But this is so cool. You say, like, like I was very lucky, which make me not be down in this cycle, which is very strange because when the COVID started, I was like, this
mm,
is crypto time, and I was buying crypto, right? So, but and then in the spring 2021, I got greedy and I started gambling going ERC20. So
yeah,
that burned me, and I went to, like, from initial investments, I was like 1,500% up, right? Like maybe even slightly more
yeah,
for a moment. And I was like, just a little bit more. I'm like, my network was at all-time high. I felt good. Like if I would sell it, I would not have to really worry, right? And it's like,
yeah.
I was like, just little more. It just went down to shit. Like, and then like it
Mm.
went like negative, uh 90% in the next 3 months. you know but then
Oh,
the
see, it's
crazy
so
happened
funny.
the crazy thing is, so like I sold like half of the shit, like all the shit coins I had. I put it all in Juno. Okay. So that's how I got engaged. Like Juno launched, I bought
Yeah.
Juno. So I got the net airdrop like 16.2.
Wow.
Then in February, I wasn't actually on the 2021 March peak, but I was pretty high up there. Like my net airdrop was 50K and stuff. And this time
Wow.
I should know better, right? It was just eight
Yeah.
months, 8 months later. Like, no, sorry, like it was
Yeah.
like 10, 11 months later. I should know better. No, it's
Yeah.
every single
It's
time
again.
I didn't sell it, right? So I went really down like 2 months ago, and I'm climbing back now. But like
Mm.
but this had good point, because this make you like I think immutable to the losses.
Yeah.
You start understanding this. This is just the money on the paper, and I gained something much more. Like I got the YouTube channel and I got contacts, which is way more fun for me now.
Mm.
Like which
Yeah.
I got really engaged into the crypto, right? So
Yeah.
like you spoke of education. Like in March 2021, I started the channel and I started making videos on about BitBoy, Lark Davis, and I was telling people they scamming you, it's gonna dump. At the
Yeah.
same time, not selling my own bags, right? It's
Yeah.
so like we
Yeah.
often like even say one thing, but we hope um for something better. um
Yeah, and I think this is a really important lesson as well. Like,
Mhm,
and it's kind of repeats the same cycle repeats. Like we have a very strong bullish
mhm,
thesis on Cosmos, right? And that's kind of I hold that thesis. I know a lot of like people that hold that thesis, including big VCs. But
mhm,
there's a potential that that isn't the winner thesis. Like no matter how much we believe in a specific thing, right, is
yeah,
never a guarantee that that is the winning thing. It's the same with Juno, same with osmosis, right? Like all of this stuff, and I'm guilty of it too because I'm building an
mhm,
ecosystem. We buy a specific narrative, right? And this is important for. I mean, like everything is narratives, everything is cults, and everything is narratives in some
mhm,
shape or form. People in Cardano are buying a narrative. They're in a cult. They're buying a vision. They're
mhm,
buying a specific story. It's the same thing with many different things. We buy a story, buy a narrative. Sometimes they're less powerful. Sometimes it's based on the pump of a token or the high APR or the fact that something's going to the moon and it's a short-lived one. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, right? Like your hexagon,
mhm,
right? You believe in like a story that Hex sells or that Terra sells. It's a story that is sold whether by the community or by one person that does it. And Cosmos will go through that narrative, and it is starting to where the
mhm,
app chain thesis is. Whether that is a narrative that holds and is scalable in the long term is yet for us to see. Like the tech is there, the I think the infrastructure is there, but then we haven't gone through it, so we don't know whether like having 100 chains is going to be like the way forward in terms of like maybe the hub will win, maybe osmosis will win, right? There's all these variables, and I think it's really important for us to detach emotion in certain shape or form from it, not completely write it off and go no emotions because there's still money to be made and
mhm.
potentially big wins to be made. But I think there is some importance on narratives there. Know that like just because something is going a certain way now doesn't mean that it is the winning narrative or it's not going to
Yeah.
change.
um this was good lesson, because after all of these drawbacks, I start selling my some of the staking rewards, right? Like I was selling all the staking rewards for like few months, turn into Atom, and also the Atom staking rewards. Expect my validators; those I wasn't selling, but I shouldn't even excuse, because if I was selling, it's nothing wrong, I think, and anyone should be allowed to do whatever they want, including validators. But like I was selling my personal ones, right? And I started at $10
Mhm.
Atom. I was keep selling to 17 and keep selling on the way down to 13, right? So I left with like
Yeah,
the average one, and I'm happy with that, because
yeah,
I got myself like 3 months in total, or 2 3 months of salary, and I have some cash to survive now, right? Like, so this is so
yeah,
important. Like you don't have to do it all the time, but like like you need to think of these times. And Atom facing
yeah.
some troubles now. I wonder what's your thoughts about this. Not sure if you were following Atom 2.0, like there is new proposal 81, which seems to be people are not very happy in the Atom change. I believe there is belief that Atom is to be taken over by the Wall Street or VCs, and there is
Right.
the other group who wants the change.
I'm kind of like I've kind of phased it out for a little bit until it resolves itself. Like I know
Hmm.
there's a lot of stuff happening, but I'm kind of my head's kind of down, building and focusing on the things I'm doing right now.
Hmm.
Like it is important for me to kind of keep an eye on what's happening across the ecosystem. It makes sense, but there's so much like
Hmm.
drama and different things happening right now that I'm like, I'm gonna wait for it to resolve itself and then kind of see where things sit because otherwise I'm just gonna get distracted. Like I've got
Hmm.
too much to do right now that's you know takes a lot of my mental energy and you know
And
yeah,
mosquito.
too much of my energy and time. So I got it. I got it. So yeah, I'm trying to like keep this balance where if I spend the entire time on Twitter looking at everything that's happening, like following all this stuff, then I wouldn't get the other stuff done that I need to do, which is quite
Hmm.
heavy. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to learn more about it and kind of see when this stuff gets resolved. But yeah, it seems to be a lot of drama again.
Hmm. For me, it's
But
opposite.
democracy, that's democracy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for me, it's opposite. The more ridiculous I become on Twitter, the more aggressive, the better it is for me. Like, which is crazy. I'm getting
yeah,
like I'm having now in the midst of the bear market, I'm actually growing, and it's like
yeah.
maybe because no one tweets, and the weirdest
People love
shit.
drama.
Yeah, the weirdest, but sometimes you go even like ridiculous, something that will not make absolute sense. It's even better. Like which I love exploring this side of the Twitter. It's quite beautiful. You
People
told
love
me.
that. Like, it's a
Mhm.
gladiator arena, right? Like, people go to see the gladiators kill each other, right? Like, if it
Yeah.
was, like, people picking flowers, they probably wouldn't do it, right? But people love the blood and gore. Like, people go to car races to watch cars crash, right? Like, they do.
Mhm.
Like, I only watch, like, if I ever watch NASCAR, it's because I wanna see the crashes. It sounds awful, but that's the reality, and it's no
Yeah,
different with Twitter in a way.
yeah. So someone commented like, so I did this giveaway, right? Like, because like that's how you want a little bit, but I don't want just people retweet. Like, so I was
Yeah, you want
like, tell me
engagement.
what you hate about Stargaze, right? Man, there was over 100 comments. And this is like, so this is like one way, it's like bad. Guess what? The Stargaze team bookmarked this comment because in the
Good.
comments they got a lot of great feedback. Like they got so
100%.
much feedback what to do with the Stargaze. Like so, like there is like you can always also play your trolling into the benefits. So like some
Yeah.
might not see it, but it's actually very beneficial. Recently, like we had the disagreement on the Twitter, and I'm not aiming at what you think we are aiming, because you said that you believe soon we might be due to some bull market because there is a lot of cash on the sideways. While
Yes.
remember, and I absolutely like I totally don't believe in that. I think we are getting into very tight money supply. So like, tell me your thesis here.
So I think what's going to happen, and it may not be a long-lived pump. There is still a lot of like the money supply in general is shrinking, but from like a startup perspective, from a venture capital perspective, there's a ton of VCs in crypto and outside of crypto that have raised funds and capital right now. So there's like I think it's like 260 billion or something ridiculous like that's been raised that is there ready to be deployed into the market. And you talk to a lot of these VCs, and many of them actually um, are sitting on piles of cash, and many of them are conservative. Like a lot of them right now are kind of waiting to see what the market does. They're waiting for like a little bit of a sign for things to turn around before they deploy. There's still VCs that are deploying capital. There's still projects getting funded, but it's a lot harder. But there is a fair bit of money sitting around there that is waiting for a sign of a pivot. All right.
Mhm.
And I mean, this could be a long time. And I think, it depends on how things go. But I think that we will get a run of some shape or form when the market senses a bit of a pivot, like maybe if the Fed pivots or something happens, there is a lot of money there that is ready to be deployed, and there is some dry powder. Whether that's enough to keep it sustained and to go into another bull
Mhm.
market, probably not. But in terms of like, I think we will see some kind of rally or some relief when the confidence turns around for many of these big funds and for people to feel safe putting their money into stuff again.
Mhm.
And same goes for retail, right? The VCs lead and the retail kind of follows. When people kind of feel safe to start putting their money again, that's when we get a rally. Whether that's that could pump, and then we could get another complete dump all the way down. But I think there is some dry cash there that will have an impact, and I think
Yeah.
we will see that kind of get deployed at some point.
Yeah, like so I was wondering why, if we will be slowly sliding into like shorter cash supply, because the banks now are not encouraged to increase that, right? So it's like, hey, there
Yeah,
is less retail is getting poorer, they cannot invest, so it's like, which affects the equities prices, including crypto, and they might be keep
yeah,
sliding. So we don't know how long will be the wait for this cash to be deployed. That would be my belief. And there is also what I observed, there is belief that there is, and it's very troublesome, because in 2018 I don't feel there was such belief that the bull market is coming back soon. No, like there was no this,
mm,
but now everyone is sitting and they're like, yeah, the bull market will come in 2 years, the bull market will come next year.
mm,
And I'm like, well, I don't really like it. So what if we
mm.
don't get the bull market for the next 6 years, which is like,
Then
maybe.
we're all screwed, and most of the projects are going to run out of runway.
Yeah, so like
That's, I think that's the consensus for a lot of projects, is like build up cash runway to survive for like a couple of years. But if
yeah,
that doesn't happen, then it's gonna be interesting, right?
yeah, so this is the like, it's the like, because I understand it's bear market, like, and you probably know from the insider what's the difference in the projects, in the traffic that was in the bull market. It's just so easy, infinite money.
Mm,
And suddenly,
yeah.
like, everyone is fighting for the user, like, hey, come, please come to
Mm,
us, please use our platform. So I think if it
yeah.
lasts too long, just the cash is gonna dry, right? Like you
Yeah.
but it happens. But
Many projects are gonna die, right? Like, I think that the projects that survive are the ones that can adapt. I think adapting is really big key, because, I mean, you have to have runway, you have to be able to generate cash flow or have enough kind of reserve, or find a way to
Mhm,
get reserve, or you need to be able to adapt to the market in a specific narrative, a specific place to survive. I mean,
mhm,
Cosmos, we're kind of in a decent place for Cosmos. I mean, liquidity's low, we're still in a bear market, but we've kind of been a little bit more sheltered within Cosmos than maybe some other ecosystems, and the narrative is kind of turning in favor of
mhm,
Cosmos. I'm not saying that we're going to turn into a bull market for Cosmos or anything, but I mean, look at some of these new chains launching, like even Jackal, Rebus, Tori, like their valuations are pretty high. Like for these current market conditions, like, I mean, I was looking at, Tori, Rebus. I know that a lot of that's off the back of high APRs and all this sort of stuff, right? But I'm looking at their full diluted valuations, and they're very, very high.
mhm,
So there is kind of still money in Cosmos, and there's still kind of activity, and there's focus shifting. VCs are coming in asking to, discover projects to invest in some
mhm.
infrastructure projects. So we may, there's still kind of like a almost an opportunity. Like, I talked to Fireblocks. I was talking to Fireblocks the other day. I'm not sure if people know kind of who Fireblocks is, but Fireblocks is a really important piece coming to Cosmos, because they are institutional money. So they're like like self custody solutions for like institutional money. So wherever like Fireblocks goes, this is where those big money LPs go, and the
You
big
mean the
funds. And they're talking. I know
consulting
they're talking to
company? Is it this? Sorry.
Fireblocks. So they actually run, I think it's 15% of entire crypto volume, or is it the entire crypto transaction goes through Fireblocks?
Wow.
Um, and they integrate chains. And when they integrate chains, it's kind of where how money is moved between exchanges and different chains. And I think Atom's integrated, but so far
Mhm,
none of the other Cosmos chains are. And I know they're talking to Osmosis. I think that's going to be one of the first. I can't, give any kind of stuff. I know that I was talking to the team, and then they were talking to Osmosis. So they get demand from these institutions, and then the institutions. This isn't VCs. This is just like institutional money.
mhm,
And then they're like, okay, we want this integrated, or if there's more interest for Cosmos, then they're more likely to integrate. And when that happens, a lot of inflow of institutional money comes in. We saw this in Terra. There was a lot of institutional money come into Terra, and they were integrated.
mhm.
So I think that could be really good for liquidity in the Cosmos in general as well, bringing in some bigger money, some bigger amounts of liquidity into the ecosystem.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I think Osmosis can be very big winner here. I was thinking like this step that Binance did recently. I'm pretty sure that all Cosmos guys were like, hey, we have the problem because there might be new hub appearing, right? Because Atom was this
Yeah.
entry, but now it's like, hey, maybe Osmosis will be the entry. And I want to say, like, because this is really cool what you said. Even if we don't have crypto bull market, Like it wasn't the case before, but for me, it's that the fact that something was not the case before
Mm.
doesn't mean it will not happen. So we could still see, let's say, it could be Cosmos chains that go 30x while we
Yeah,
have crypto bear market. Like because
that can
maybe
happen.
maybe paradigm will shift. Maybe it's not about Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? Maybe they will stay flat or even go down. But then what if Osmosis go to 30 billion valuation? It could happen. Like you like,
Mm.
it's all you. So
Mm.
so it might be completely different. And I think like that's what's most fascinating for me, just seeing this weird stuff. Like I'm with Stargaze, so it's like what if we get some massive NFT boom, right? And not crypto but NFT.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the NFT boom. I'm not too sure about.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit skeptical about, like, I mean, like, obviously NFTs long term, but I think they'll pivot from what we saw before. Like, obviously, like the big thing for NFTs is like culture, right? There's big cultures around NFTs, but I think retail is kind of a bit like
Hmm.
off NFTs in general. I think like in terms of utilities like music and gaming and stuff like that, maybe, and then use cases for DeFi or things like that. But I'm not sure about NFTs, like from the same Monkey PFP collection, for example, being I'm not sure about that in this market. But also, I think there's also like the devil's advocate side of parts of Cosmos. Is I think there's like some tokenomics stuff that needs to be worked on in Cosmos in general, because I see so many of these chains, right? Like these sovereign L1 Cosmos chains that spin up, and you have very high inflationary kind of models. They have huge inflation, and obviously they, similar, like the network value capture is like, a lot of it is people are buying them for airdrops, or they're buying them for, like for using to purchase NFTs or to purchase like specific things. But like this kind of like the notion that, okay, a chain, obviously the tokenomics of a chain, right, usually accrue value by, um, you know, having like a lot of utility. So a lot of composability is usually helpful, like lending, borrowing, complex DeFi, having like revenue capture, like decent ways in which it captures like fees, or it captures specific things, like fees on a chain. So, for example, like paying staking rewards for users, for example, building like something like Juno, building up a DApp ecosystem of lots more people actually using the chain. But when you have like 20 chains, right, like, and there's so many of these different chains, and they all have inflationary tokenomics models, and they don't necessarily have huge like revenue capture. Like, where does that come from? Like, where does the value accrue on a lot of these chains come from?
Hmm.
Like, does it make sense for them to go as consumer chains, right? Like, um, like they're obviously used to secure the network, but if the network then long term doesn't have a huge amount of network effects or a lot of like
Hmm.
activity happening on the chain, they're going to be worthless, right? And it goes for every current chain. Even Osmosis doesn't get. I think Osmosis is in a good position because they're the liquidity hub of the DEX. But if they pay out like high emissions all the time and they don't capture that value, which maybe is great, but I don't know if it's enough.
Hmm.
I'm not so worried about Osmosis because they're kind of like such a leader in that place. But well, even all these other chains, it's like, well, how do you survive long term once the narratives died down? Once the like
Hmm.
speculation has kind of died down around the value of the chain? How do you survive?
Yeah, like tokenomics are like completely relevant to me because like people are so hooked up on this. We are like had discussion recently. You can just mint tokens whenever you want, actually, so it's irrelevant, but you have to drive the adoption of the chain, right? And you
Yeah.
said like Osmosis. I think there was like huge mismanagement with like Osmosis and incentivizing tons of like bad chains,
Yeah.
which they had to remove later. So that was mistake. But the Osmosis strategy was super clever to like actually be aggressive with building the
Mm.
liquidity.
Yeah.
So when the bear market happened, the Osmosis was like only one place you can go with the for like to use Stargaze or anything. So this like you had no option. So now they become this hub. So despite this sort of throwing away the tokens left and right, they build this
Yeah.
very strong position. And in few years, like even if there will be no incentives, right? Like the Osmo, and I think this is the plan. Like Osmo will have no incentives at some point, but it will be the major hub. If you build the Cosmos chain, you will
Yeah.
go and build osmosis pool with your own funds, and you will
Yeah.
incentivize you will make your own incentives.
Yeah.
So the osmosis will be just too big for people to not come there. Like that's what I believe
Sure.
is like they strategy. But yeah, like so we have dexes. What could be the chain stream of revenues like for sustaining?
Well, it's a tough one, right? Like, I think for a chain, like it's not so much always about having revenue, but oftentimes like having a DApp ecosystem that's built
Hmm.
on top of it. Because once you've got a DApp ecosystem and everybody's using your tokens, and then there's fees being generated, and that's going to stakers, and there's other ways in which you can kind of generate revenue. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing that comes to mind is trading fees, right? If you can generate enough like
Hmm.
volume on your chain, compared to like the liquidity, then you kind of have a Uniswap effect where you're semi-sustainable from a DEX level. But it is very hard to kind of get to that spot. I think Osmosis is in a good track for that, but it needs to obviously you need to keep that volume high to pay for incentives. And obviously, it's kind of got the advantage that an ecosystem can be built. And I think what's really smart is that, and this is my biggest belief around Cosmos. I'm less of a believer of just having like a layer chain that has stuff on it, but leading with like an app kind of specific, like a app specific like chain, like Osmosis being a DEX, and then building out products that are related to that specific DEX
Hmm.
on top of the chain is really smart, because like then it kind of feeds into each other rather than just go, hey, I'm going to set a base level and just add tons of stuff on. So I think that gaming chains will be great, for example, right? Where a chain will be specific to kind of like a specific type of game, and then you'll be able to kind of games that get too big will be able to split off and build their own kind of chains and their own ecosystems. That's my biggest kind of like view of Cosmos, like sovereign chains and stuff like that. But I think it's hard as more of these chains are built out, that it's not going to be like everybody winning together. I think there's going to be some that are going to win out. Osmosis is going to
Hmm.
suck a lot of the liquidity out of some of the other dexes on the ecosystem, and they have. Or even another platform could spin up, or someone could move over from ETH and actually potentially take all of that out of Osmosis. It's unlikely, but it's possible. And so I think it's important to kind
Hmm.
of think about that too.
Yeah. I wanted to get that back a little bit to NFTs because there's Rarma with his ugly ass NFT. But I want maybe, but like there is the hope for them. Maybe they could upgrade the looks. But like I want to, because you said like you're not so sure about the NFTs. But this is the
I
good.
am, but just different. I think a different, like it's a different kind of wave to
Mhm.
like having maybe what we had in the last bull run. I think just building a collection and maybe different. It's about communities and culture at the end of the day. But yeah,
Yes. Yes. So this is what I want to say. The community and culture and the NFTs lost themselves, but they are the NFTs that prevailed. One example that I actually don't really like because I don't think there is great culture. I think there is only culture of the rich boys, which is apes, right? Like is
yeah,
the drawback of 50% holding very well, but you have some
yeah,
like because you had like Kongs or something like this, they didn't have culture. Like the Kongs were
mm, mm,
based on like, hey, this will pump so you can flip. So if there is new NFT coming on the rhetoric, you can make much money. You will not make the money because you can't build community. And in
yeah,
in Cosmos, like we have raccoons, they were able to build that community that is strong. So they have their own group and they can really expand and scale from this. The other group is Bad Kids, but it's maybe Bad Kids is a little bit less aligned because you probably saw many people who even like don't really get into Bad Kids. They bought the Bad Kid because other people
yeah,
had the Bad Kid. So many people changed
sure.
the PFP to this, right? You have some NFT that I don't know, like and no, I know them. Rect,
I like those guys. Wrecked Gang, yeah, they're really
very
good.
nice people, very nice people. Yeah,
I
so
really like
they
those
build
guys.
something. So we have this smaller culture that builds something, and I think that could actually work. We spoke about this. I hope maybe like I could try something, right? So like I see a little bit here. Um, let me just see what
Think
path
about
to.
values, like think about like values of that specific collection or community. Like
Mhm.
this is where Juno thrives so much, even though there isn't a ton of stuff built on Juno just yet. Like it's about culture and community, similar kind of
Mhm.
to an NFT collection where a lot of people share similar values and thoughts of like, that's why it's so tight and it's so
Mhm.
engaged, because everybody is very similar and they share a similar kind of culture and values.
Mhm.
And I think it's the same with NFTs, right? Like they'll have a specific niche or a specific culture, value, community. Even Board Yacht Club, hate them or not, they shared this kind of culture and this
Mhm.
community, and then they kind of got popular. But
Yeah.
people kind of have this specific vision or set of values around it.
Yeah. Look, because like we still didn't speak of Eclipse, and we
Yeah,
don't have really Launchpad in Cosmos, which is really strange. Like this is the weirdest thing ever. Like we had so many Launchpads on Ethereum, which sorry
yeah,
for saying that, but like when I heard on Ethereum Launchpad, I knew it's a scam. Like because there was so much of this, everyone was doing Launchpad. Like you probably saw that.
yeah.
So the meet is
So
asking is if there is ETA of Eclipse going live, and like
y-
what's the goal here? When did you start building that? Like, just tell me anything about it.
yeah, so just to give you an idea of launch pads as well, of if we look
Hmm.
at BSC or Ethereum, launch pads boomed really hard in the bull market, right?
Hmm.
Especially, I mean, a launch pad's actually a very hard platform to build in general. It's especially hard to build in a bear market, because there's a lot less launches going on. There's a lot less like price appreciation, etc. On Ethereum and BSC, like there was a phase where there was so many projects launching, whether shit or whatever, there needed to be like more places to launch it. So people were just forking codes and setting up a new
Hmm.
launch pad, and then the tokens were going crazy because it's just the way they were structured. But they weren't built sustainably to exist outside the bull market, or that model at least wasn't built well to survive out of the bull market. There are some kind of models that survived that, and the models that really thought about like sustainability and long term value accrual and actually being built the right way have survived, like Downmaker and some of those platforms.
Hmm.
And there is still, I still have, and I can explain it whether we've got enough time, but like, for me, like I still have a lot of visions around like what a good launchpad could look like and what it could bring value to Cosmos. To give you a bit of an idea of kind of Eclipse Pad, and I'll give you a bit of like maybe a rundown of the history of Eclipse Pad and
Hmm.
kind of where it stemmed from and what the journey was. So Eclipse Pad was actually birthed out of Loop actually. So in the early days, there was Loop and there was Loop Ventures on Terra. That Loop Ventures had a lot of projects that was coming through the incubator, through the accelerator program. There was a lot of problems with like Star Terra on Terra. They were doing some funny shit. The community kind of hated them. There was some fun stuff happening. So the thoughts was to build a launch pad called Lunar Launcher, which was going to be a multi-chain launch pad across multiple ecosystems. The development started. There was ecosystems such as Polygon, ETH, BSC, like all the chains had code bases already built, and that's been in development for maybe 15 months or so. And I was actually not involved from day one with the launchpad, but I came in later and actually ended up taking over the project. What happened was like I saw that there was a lot of tech development happening, but there was not as much like the community and marketing and stuff wasn't where it needed to be. And there's a lot of things around actually building a launch pad. There's a lot of it's like 90% is relationships with a launch pad, because you can have the tech really good and the model can be really great, but if you're not good at sourcing good deals, if you're not good at like talking to a lot of projects, building a community, then you struggle a lot, because it's all about like matchmaking projects with investors. That's a really kind of the thought of a launchpad. So that kind of was happening. The tech was pretty advanced, and then Terra collapsed, and there was a bit of like a question mark of where what's going to happen now. Is the launchpad going to is it going to move somewhere? Like we ended up following Loop over to Juno, and part of the grant actually did go to the launchpad and continue of the development of the launchpad. But it was actually a silver lining and an opportunity, because it gave me kind of some scope more of the Cosmos. And I was talking to Data Chain Foundation, a lot of founders, and there was actually demand for a launchpad on Cosmos. And I'll explain in a second why I think there's some distinct advantages to this model, not as replacing anything that's existing, but as a complementary model that can add benefit to the ecosystem. And but I slowed things down. Like we could have easily just changed the name from Lunar Launcher to Cosmos Launcher, and then launched it on Cosmos, and it would have been up really quickly. But it took some time. Like I took a lot of time away to really work on the model and go, hey, we're looking at launchpad models based on a bull market versus a bear market, and what is actually required to build like a better model for a launchpad.
Hmm.
Like what's required to build more sustainability, better access for users, better tokenomics, so it's not like a pump and dump, and something that's long-term sustainable and fits the cosmos. And so basically you actually have to boil down what a launchpad is to its core essence of what it can actually be, to then build out a model that's new. So rebranded Lunar Launch to Eclipse Pad. I've spent a lot of time on the tokenomics. I've got a lot of actually got the guys from guys that are building out new tokenomics for DAO Maker that are helping me on some of the allocation stuff. And really the vision is about, and this is the other thing about launching a launchpad. Launchpads are extremely sensitive to market conditions. So launching a launchpad too early or at the wrong time can actually be quite detrimental, because it's based on reputation. The idea is it becomes a matchmaker between projects and investors, right? Which is like, okay, investors, they want to know where to put their money. They want to know, like, they want to get access to good early projects, but they may not know, they don't know necessarily how to research. I mean, you see this in Cosmos as well, where you have, people buying into, like, even on Juno, like Universe DAO, there's a lot of projects that you don't necessarily have the means, or you're not actually researching some of these projects. So sometimes you end up putting your money in wrong places or not knowing where to go. So a launchpad can kind of be that intermediary matchmaker between projects and investors, where the launchpad goes, hey, we're going to do the research, we're going to get some really good deals, we're going to find good projects, we're going to do like research reports, we're really going to dig into them, and then we're going to bring that to the community, and we're going to bring this project, and then investors get to kind of tap into that experience and that vetting and all this sort of stuff that comes on, and it becomes a matchmaker between projects and investors. If you bring bad projects or projects that perform badly, then the investors go, hey, this is a poor investment. So then it ruins your reputation, which means that you can't get as good projects onto your pad launching. So it's a bit of this spiral. So you got to be really, really careful with what you launch, and you need to make sure that it's done right. And so it's very sensitive to this. And just I'll add one last thing. I think the biggest thing that I see the launchpad being important for Cosmos is the ability to tap into outside ecosystem and bringing users into Cosmos. Because when you play with an outside ecosystem, like you play with Near or with Avalanche and stuff like that, you may look at the ecosystem, but you may never participate. Like you may see what's happening there, but you never set up a wallet, you never put your foot in, and you never buy into a project until you've got a reason to do so. A good launchpad can almost act as like a catalog, where if you're seeing good projects launching on a chain and it goes, hey, I've got a chance to participate, and you're given the tools to participate easily from cross-chain, suddenly it's like, okay, cool, this new chain's launching, it looks really cool, we've marketed to cross-chain, and then you participate in this IDO, suddenly you've got tokens on that chain, you've got a wallet on that chain, suddenly this is an entry into the ecosystem. So if done right, it's a really cool ability to, like, it's almost like a marketing or exposure tool to bring people into the ecosystem, but it's a very hard model to get right.
I think you mentioned the DAO Maker. I think it's actually a project from Poland. I'm not sure if you interacted with them.
Is it?
Yeah,
I've
I
actually
think
got a
this.
call with them tomorrow, I think. Yeah, Poland.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure these guys are from Poland. I saw quite some like projects being involved. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I could probably confirm it
You could be
quickly.
right. You could be right.
But
They've done really well for themselves. DAOmaker survived pretty well in this market, and they're one of the launch pads that has kind of
yeah,
came up on top. Some of it's to do with their contacts. They're really well contacted, but they've also had better tokenomics in general than most other pads, which has kind of given them like a big advantage in this as the market's dumped, because a lot of these launch pads have had very Ponzi tokenomics. That's been very like pump and dump and heavy.
yeah,
And what happens is when the music stops and the launches stop, then everybody dumps their tokens. I kind of like to think of a launchpad, like people think of launchpads as fundraising tools. I think they are, but I think of them more as marketing tools than fundraising tools, right? Because you can raise funds, but if you're a chain and you've already raised from VCs, raising another $500,000 on a launchpad isn't your first front of mind, right? I mean, it's great. Like many of them will launch on 10 pads, but it's really about marketing.
yeah. There was a lot of projects on the DAO, like on the DAO Maker, and like make it clear, right? A lot of these projects were also rags, like but like that's
Yeah.
you cannot avoid that. But there was a lot of projects that raised money from the raised money before in the seed rounds, and then they went to the launchpad to raise just a little bit of money, which
Yes.
was like just so it's that's very clever, because you raise the money from the VCs or something, you don't have users. How to get
Yeah.
users? You go to Launchpad and you get 10,000 wallets signing in for the low price, and suddenly you have the users, and then might start using your apps later. So
100%. And they get tokens, and it's kind of like an airdrop, but it's a slightly different model, because you're actually also from an airdrop, like an airdrop, especially in Cosmos, most of them have stayed within the ecosystem. but like I see this as an ability to tap potentially outside the ecosystem.
Mhm.
And if you and I see like launch pads have to be done right. And I think some of the issues, this is some of the beef that I have with maybe CoinList and some of these platforms, they're not very targeted in terms of the users that they attract.
Mhm.
So what happens is you end up having raising a ton of money from a ton of users that don't give a shit about your stuff, so they dump your tokens. I think it can be done right so that you're actually attracting good investors that have skin in the game, that care about your stuff. I think there's definitely some behind the scenes stuff that can be implemented. I'm talking to a couple of people around like how do you implement like get better better engaged users, and the users that actually invest in some of these projects are people that have maybe got a bit more skin in the game, which is
Mhm.
where like the investing part comes in. Like sometimes airdrops, you get an airdrop, you haven't paid anything or done anything to get it. So sometimes you're just like, I
Yeah.
don't give a shit, I'm gonna dump this, right? Sometimes if you invest and you've had to done the steps to go and get it, sometimes there's a little bit more like commitment right there to
Mhm.
actually get that
Mhm.
right. So that's a one interesting piece around like launch pads versus kind of airdrops as well.
Mine no, because like I don't know anything about Eclipse. Who? How many people work for that? Like, did you raise some funds already? Like, or
We did a pre-seed round back on Terra, which basically
Mhm.
got the we did a pre-seed round on Terra, which got us kind of the tech to where we're now. And then we got part of the grant from the Juno Development
Mhm.
Fund, which has helped to like massively help with continuing the tech development.
Yeah,
Um, there's about so I would say there's about four of us like
yeah.
actually kind of working on it. There's a team that's that's kind of on standby. That is some really good people actually that is being scaled up, but that comes as we're going through fundraising. I'm doing a seed round at the moment, which in this market is
Yeah.
challenging to say the least. But a lot of this is all about like scaling, right? It's like when you raise a seed round, you raise the private round. A lot of this is like, okay, how can we get money in the bank to actually scale up the team,
Mhm.
scale up the marketing, start doing PR across other ecosystems, and build out like the community. We're kind of in a good place where a lot of the tech is pretty advanced already. There's still some development to do, and we have kind of ambitions to build out more products and more
Mhm.
kind of suites. But the tech is at a pretty good place. So now it's just like partnerships, getting VCs to get both partnerships and funding, as well as scaling out the team. So it's not the pressure doesn't just go on me. Like I kind of get to a place where I'm wearing a lot of hats, and it gets quite challenging, right? Because there's so many things where I'd rather specialize in what I'm really good at, which is relationships, or which is getting these projects in and all this sort of stuff, than doing like some small stuff that we can bring in people to help with.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
How much you want to raise?
So we're doing a seed at the moment. I think we're raising about 1 million in seed, and then we're doing about 1.8 in private. But that's going to be kind of, I think we're probably going to do half that, and
Yeah.
then maybe have a later raise. The idea
Yeah.
is just to see how much kind of runway we can have for the next 2 years. I think that's one of the
Yeah.
biggest kind of focuses is how can we have a decent bank that's like we can scale up the team, we can scale up the marketing without running out of funds.
Are you planning to do some airdrops? Sorry for asking that, but I
We
guess
are actually.
yeah.
We're actually after this call, I'm going to release an article, which will be like a draft article on airdrops. We're going to do. It's going to be fun, actually. It's going to be one of the fun airdrops. We're going to do IDOs both for Eclipse. We're going to do its own IDO, and we're going to do a couple of IDOs on cross chain pads. I'm talking to
Mhm.
cross chain pads at the moment to like lock in some stuff, because the idea is that we want to bring users in not just within Cosmos but from outside the ecosystem
Mhm.
as well, right? We don't want to just keep it in just if we just do it in Cosmos, it's great. And at the start, it's important because we want the Cosmos community to benefit from most of this stuff. But we actually want to bring users in from cross chain. The idea is to bring in liquidity and bring people in from outside. We're going to do airdrops to different communities. Juno is going to be the biggest recipient of this airdrop. We're going to do Osmo. I'm not going to do Atom, but I'm keeping it to like some small communities. So some like smaller NFT communities. I've been working on like how can we kind of narrow the numbers so that we're targeting
Mhm.
the most active participants. I wanted to make it a fair drop. I want it to be like, it's not going to be massive, but I don't want it to be tiny either, right? So wanted to
Mhm.
kind of keep it kind of narrowed. Like I'm looking for about, looking at the parameters in terms of like governance and a few things to maybe touch around like 15,000 Juno stakers based on governance and things. And then different communities. So, there's a couple of NFT communities that are really tight, like trying to target, 1 to 2,000 people in that, and a couple of cross chain communities. The idea is to like really keep it a bit more targeted and narrowed,
Mhm.
and still attract users, but also like attract like pretty active and engaged users.
Yeah, and like you're going to be the app on Juno, but the end game is you want to be your own sovereign chain. Is it correct, right?
Yeah. So I think there's a few things, right? Like at this, we can actually run a lot of stuff on Juno. Like we plan to launch dApp chains and stuff like that. So I'm talking to a couple different chains. We can actually either we can kind of open up the channels early, and then we can do raise. We could actually launch their project on Juno while they're cross chain, or we can actually talk to the project and they pay a certain amount. We can integrate our code onto their chain, so we can do the launch on their chain before they launch, so that users are going directly to their chain. That's another possibility. My future vision is like it's about building a launch like a launch ecosystem, right? Like I really want to build multiple different products that serve different styles of launches, but also different markets, because currently the launchpad is very, very limited, right? Because we can only launch a specific type of project that is very highly vetted or very high, like at a decent size, because we need to mitigate the risk of having bad projects or rugs with all this sort of stuff, right? But we want to bring in, another product similar to what kind of DAO has done in more of a permissionless way, but bringing in other creative solutions for avoiding rugs, like
Hmm.
vesting of tokens over a period of time, or things like having really good vetting layers where an outside party gets rewarded, for example, for doing a deep dive and a
Hmm.
deep vet into a project, and they get given a score, for example. These kind of things to try and mitigate against poor behavior of projects, and making sure that rugs aren't launched. And then some of these smaller community projects can then actually raise in a permissionless way from the community, which might not be as much about marketing, but maybe more about like, how do I raise like a seed round from the Juno community, right? So instead of it being just about like the big pad that launches the big dApp chains, the big projects, it's a platform for community raising. So
Hmm.
I kind of see this as kind of building an ecosystem that ties into each other, but there's some things that have to happen before that happens. I don't want to jump the gun. I have to get Eclipse Pad off the ground and doing well before we even
Yeah.
can consider doing that.
When it's going to be live? Don't have to give the hard date. Maybe estimate the months or.
So we're actually just going to testnet. I'm putting together a beta tester group. I mean, you
Mhm.
can jump in if you want as well. So the code is done. There's a staking model. We're still running the old staking model, but I've built like a time lock staking model. My dev has built a time lock staking model, which is pretty cool. When I release the docs, there'll be more information on that. But so the beta testers, like actually now today with me, I was testing it today. It's looking pretty good. There's still a couple of screens to come in. There's still some things to kind of fix up. We're gonna do the beta test. Then we're gonna release. Actually, we're going to release testnet, but it's not testnet because the devs have been working on mainnet. So I wanted it to be testnet, but it turns out it's mainnet. So we're actually going to do like a kind of a test token, like a mainnet thing, which is going to be one of the prerequisites for one of the action steps in the airdrop, which will be
Mhm.
performing like a mock test IDO, which will go through the steps of like whitelist and do a raise and then get the token and claim the vested tokens. I would say, we'll start doing raises maybe in about a month and a half. It just depends on the project timelines and what, like the quality project that goes and some of the what the market's like, because your first one or two project is really important in terms of what you
Mhm.
raise for. Like if I list a project that's not great and doesn't sell out, and doesn't do well, then the second and third project's going to be a lot harder, and suddenly like you can actually kill the platform before you even started if not done well. So really
Yeah.
talking to a couple different project chains and also Juno crew to kind of figure out what to do. And then we'll probably launch our token afterwards, because we want to showcase a working product before we even launch a token. So it's maybe do one or two good launches, and then towards the end of the year or start of next year, launch the token, do the airdrop, do the IDOs. Plus, we need a build up. It's really hard for me at the moment because I have to build up the community, but we're raising funds, right? I'm
There is
focusing
no
on the
community,
fundraise, getting
right?
money in. Hmm?
But there is no community because it's bear market.
Well, it can still be built up, but it takes a grind, right? Like it takes a while. So we need to boost those numbers before we do raises. While at the same time, like raising capital to have money to scale up the team to market more. So it's
Mhm.
kind of this chicken and the egg, but we're working with it, and the airdrop's going to help and the different things. I think we've got a pretty strong narrative. I think that's really helpful. And it's all about like being really guerrilla, right, with how we do it. I don't want to be the person that has it sitting on a bunch of money that's able to spend money on doing stuff. I'd rather bootstrap it, but it's also helpful to have some funds to be able to kind of
Hmm.
scale up. And with the funds that we're raising, I'm also very selective about who I bring into the cap table, because I don't want shit VCs like we talked at the start. So I'm very careful with like who I'm talking to. Like I'm talking to some decent validators, which will be very strategic. Talking to some like good VCs that have like big communities, or they have like specific ways in which we can partner with, right? So I'm thinking of it like partnerships rather than just
Hmm.
investment, but just kind of building that up and building it up, and then releasing the things that I can release at the same time. So
Hmm.
getting the docs out there so that people can kind of like read and understand the tokenomics and what it's about. And because I'm writing the docs, it sounds really ADHD, right? So it's like getting someone in to fix up and clean up the docs so they sound more readable. Like it's all this stuff. It's fun things.
Like there was one comment that like I haven't responded. I need to respond to the it was some minutes ago. Hollywood
Yeah.
Regal saying funny how the guest is way more knowledgeable than the host. And well, good for you, Simon. But I want to say to the Hollywood Regal, how about you, Hollywood Regal, come and host it for us? We can see how great host you will be. Huh?
Look,
I
I'm
bet
done
you
with a
will.
lot of things. Like, I mean, like, I can't read a single line of code, right? I cannot write. I
I
can't read a
can't
single
do it.
line of code.
Like,
No, it's like,
this the shit is so weird. Like I just started making like the dumb videos, and like somehow I become the Cosmos community member. Like this, it doesn't make sense. It's like it's funny, like, and I see the difference in Cosmos. I because that's how you get engaged, and I think that's how Rarma got engaged,
mm,
right? Like, and I did learn a lot. I did learn a lot from people. um uh
for sure.
I like debates, Rarma. I like debates sometimes. I
It's
mean,
good.
like, you probably notice I'm not trying to like which like it's okay to debate, and I'm okay to be the stupid one in the debate. Like, it's not a problem for me. Like, so
Yeah.
it's like the interview, and it's also like, but sometimes I just want to talk because I want to learn about the person, right? So like I'm asking the
Yeah.
questions, and like, oh, what is this? Like, what you did? Like, this is how you. I actually I did ask you, Rarma. I did ask you like to come. I think it would be very fun. So like you are invited. I'm gonna send you calendar after we finish this video. So we will schedule something, Rarma. But Simon, I have question to you because I have the friend, right? I have the friend, and he has the YouTube channel. So
Yeah.
like, and I feel there is such a difference between the Cosmos ecosystem and the other ecosystem because, like, I'm getting involved and I'm getting some job offers, right? Which, like, it's
Mm,
just the beginning for me. Like, I never worked in this. I never worked even in the startup environment. I'm experimenting, trying to bring value, make the community engaged, and this is the way how you get the job in Cosmos, right? Like, you are a
mhm.
community member for 1 year and you get the job. And I have this friend who is
Yeah.
like very experienced, and he told me, if you hear any companies, like, he's like the crypto guy, right? Like, I can't even tell you
Yeah.
like, and I don't know what to tell him. He has like 30,000 subscribers. And he's like, if you hear any companies want a marketing director, advisor, or video expert, please let me know. So what do you tell people who want to get job like in the Cosmos? Because I feel like this is, and I feel you come from the other world, because like I'm checking out the Eclipse, and you have so many marketing guys, and I would say like, hey, I think it's not great to have that many marketing guys. I'm not the
Yeah.
expert,
Yeah.
but like
But they're
this
not.
is.
They're currently like. I'll give you a bit of backstory on that as
Mhm.
well. I think that even though there's like the team is built up and everything like that, a lot of that team isn't fully like hired or fully
Mhm.
like spun up. And I think some of it came out of like me and maybe overdoing it as well, because I'm used
Mhm.
to not being someone who could delegate very well, so I kind of went
Mhm.
the other way. But I think as a launch pad, it's important to have a lot of marketing guys in general. I think a launch pad is quite heavy on the marketing side, but you do have to hire slow and be smart about it. So
Mhm.
that is an important consideration.
So what you tell to my friend, like if he asks you, and if you hear any companies want marketing director or something, like, because I would tell him like, that's not really how Cosmos works. Like, we don't Cosmos doesn't hire. You go to Cosmos, you engage in community, you get a job. Like, so
Yeah.
like, just like I don't know how to send him that message back, but like good guy,
I
right?
think just add value, go and engage,
Yeah.
right? Like, I
Yes.
think this is going to shift a little bit. I think there is an importance of hiring specific like skills in the Cosmos in
Mhm.
general, because like again, like I love, I would hire someone who's engaged in the community like a lot more before somebody else, but there's still requirements to bring in outside talent and skills. So if someone has a lot of experience in a specific industry, they can bring a lot of stuff that you may be missing, right? Like if the Cosmos, like, is if, for example, you build a project and you hire people from in the Cosmos, that's great. But then if you're hiring someone as a marketing director who's never understood marketing or known how to kind of shift and do all this sort of stuff, then you're also kind of missing out on potential talent. And I think I'm even a believer in at some point hiring outside of crypto even for marketing,
Mhm.
because a lot of the really good marketers in crypto or good CMOs have set up their own companies because they're good at what they do, right? So they've already done it. So I think there'll be kind of some level of like, bringing in and incubating talent from outside of crypto into
Mhm.
the space to understand some of the pieces of the organization, because like there is some importance to, like, if you want to scale a product to the size of Osmosis or past it, there is certain skills that you're going to require to get to that size. And even then, like, look at Osmosis, they had some funny, questionable things that happen with marketing. I can't talk too much on it, but like, I think there is talented experience does play a role in this as well. So I think it's important for that. I think for him, it's about adding value. Like, if he asked you, if someone's looking for something, it's like, well, how can you show that you're good at what you do? Because there's so many people out there that aren't, that say they're good at something or they have this, but they're not necessarily. And I struggle this a little bit with hiring or thinking about hiring. Is like, how do I know that someone's really good unless I've worked with them? Or like, if you put 10 marketing people on the sake of having marketing people, they're not going to do the job. You're better off finding one person who's going to grind and hustle hard, than hiring 10 people that maybe seem good but you don't know if they are. So maybe if he can come in and add value to projects or add value to people, then he'll more likely get a chance of getting a good
Mhm.
job in these roles. But until you do that, then how do you know, right?
Yeah, this is like something you get about, like you said about marketing, and I like this comment. I also it's not what crypto can do for you, because that's how I got engaged. I'm making content
Mm.
tutorials, and and I also have like question to you, like Loop Finance, right? Osmosis, and there was this big talks about making videos that are very expensive. I don't know how much you
Yeah.
make per the video that you record. I think you are on salary, so it's very different. But
Yeah. Yeah.
there was this Osmosis has like 1 minute video, and people were saying it was like 5K per video, and I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, I would do it for the fraction of the price. I'm
The
like,
Osmosis ones were crazy. The Osmosis ones, I was shocked when I saw the price, because I mean, even the Loop Learn videos were really expensive, but the Osmosis ones were like
but
crazy, right?
I don't want to shield myself, but like because I come from tutorial background, I was making Photoshop
Mm.
courses since like for past 8 years or something, so I can do tutorial different than on my channel. I can be like the nice guy and do the like tutorial, right? But then they pay so much, and people go after it, the funniest comment for me is like the industry standard, like this is the,
Mm.
because the industry standard doesn't exist. Like it's like, because someone can say like, yeah, like Super Bowl industry standard, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't have industry
Yeah.
standard, or you can go on Fiverr, like, or find some cheap. So there is not really. So like this is
Mm.
like the worst excuse. But also I've seen the Osmosis. I'm not sure if you've seen some of the proposals, the payout of like 500,000 Osmo to like people who run Twitter and stuff. Like I don't even
Yeah.
know, but there is
Yeah.
some like crazy. But despite that, Osmosis was very successful, right? So
When a company grows to a certain size, it doesn't bootstrap as much anymore. Like Terra is
Mhm.
spending crazy money on things, right? Like companies in Web 2 spend, because what happens is when you get more people involved, I think, and it's more detached from, like, if
Yeah,
you're spending from your own money on something,
yeah.
typically, like, it's like, oh shit, that's a lot of money. But when you become a big organization with a lot of staff, those lines kind of get blurred a little bit. I think the Osmosis is definitely overpaid. I think um the Loop Learn videos were a pretty good deal for what they were. As far as we looked,
Mhm.
I actually looked across a lot of the space at different animation companies in general, and they were actually like the cheapest you could potentially find within those
Mhm.
categories of animated videos. The one issue that we had with Loop Learn was that we didn't originally pay for the videos in the first place. TFL did, right? So what
Yeah.
happened was that we ended up making all these videos that were really expensive that we would have never paid for. had it
Yeah.
not been for TFL paying for these videos. I would have made that. Like, I actually started making the videos myself, kind of like what you said, in terms of making videos on YouTube, and then doing whiteboard automation,
Mhm.
and they were really cheap and easy to make. Um, and then when TFL sponsored these Loop Learn videos, and it was budget was massive. I think it was like $1.6 million was like budgeted towards building these videos. And I mean, I wasn't going to say no, right? Like, I pitched TFL. They were like, I was like, this is what I want to build. This is the product I want to build. And they're like, okay, cool. We're going to pay the animation company directly. They never paid Loop for the video specifically. Like, my salary never came from TFL, but they paid directly to the animation company to build these videos. So once we ended up with all these nice videos, it's really hard to go backwards,
Mhm.
right? Like, if you're building the flow, it's suddenly like, oh shit, now we got these really nice videos. It's
Yeah.
so expensive to tear it out of the videos. And suddenly it's like, how do we build this product that we want to build?
Mhm.
Especially now that we're in a bear market, which is what I wanted to build with Loop Learn is a lot harder to build now in a bear market than it was in a bull market.
Mhm.
And what I ended up doing is I was making YouTube videos as well. I actually have to make more of them. I've just been so busy, because it's just really hard to kind of like think about like funding, lots of these videos. But you got to be like strategic. I think having a Cosmos flow of videos. I think I was
Mhm.
talking to someone from Strangelove, Kevin from Strangelove. He was like, when I was at Consensus, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to help you get." This is around the same time I think Osmosis was looking to build these kind of
Mhm.
Cosmos videos. He was like, "Hey, we should get like funding from around the ecosystem to build a fund to actually build out this product as like an ecosystem
Mhm.
whole." But then the market crashed and tanked to hell, and then nobody wanted to spend on marketing, and then 15K videos is obviously too expensive. So it's really hard to kind of think about. But my initial thoughts of Loop Learn was actually around, I was in education for a long time, and I saw how poor the education was for crypto. There was a lot of stuff on YouTube, but it always lacked a lot of flow. There wasn't really a good flow for the videos. Like, it's really hard for a beginner knowing where to start and how do you start.
Mhm.
What you're doing. Like, where do you begin? Like, how do you start from like knowing nothing to knowing something? So when I build Loop Learn, it was about like, how can I build a flow of videos where users can come through and they can actually like, we're not using any big words like validators from video one because they don't know what that means. So until you've
Yeah.
explained the topics, you don't bring in any extra like crazy shit, and you build it like with analogies and slowly, and explain the concepts of crypto, not just like this is what Bitcoin is. It's like, well, this is why Bitcoin was created and some of the problems it solves. The idea
But
was to build like this kind of Coinbase earn to learn platform where we would build this flow of videos that would then be incentivized with like NFTs or tokens, and like users could learn how to watch
Mhm.
videos, learn about crypto, and then they could actually perform actions. Like, could be learning about a DEX and then actually have to perform an action on a DEX and then receive a reward.
Mhm.
But I think what became really hard with these videos is obviously they were really expensive to make, took a long time to make. Terra crashed, and then there's also like, that's less of the market for this kind of thing in a bear. If like in a bear, you got a lot less retail users and new users coming in, so it's a lot harder to kind of like track and get that out there.
Mhm.
But I think there's still a lot of things, and I think it's something that has to be done by everybody, not just. I think it was really hard for me in my own world to build this product. I mean, obviously the Loop team and stuff like that, but there was a lot of me building that, right? And
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that I think I know that I don't know. And there's a lot of stuff that needs to kind of like, how do we actually get this out there? Like, how do we build this product? It's a free product that's not monetized, because it's monetized um, in like a behind the scenes, right? So it's like literally like it's a lead magnet for an ecosystem, right? So you build this thing, brings users in, you market this thing, and then users actually participate in the ecosystem by getting funneled into this
Mhm.
platform. But it has to be done the right way so that you can actually bring users to this first kind of touch
Mhm.
point and then sending them to the ecosystem. And a lot of chains were actually wanting just Loop Learn. Like, so when Terra crashed, so many chains were like, we want Loop Learn, we want this product.
Yeah.
But it needs good funding to work. It's quite an
I
intensive thing.
I do think the funding like was very extensive, but I kind of understand because I see how surreal was the world in the Terra ecosystem. I know they were throwing money at people. There was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's not pretend. And
Yeah.
this
They're
brings
printing
like,
it.
yeah, like, and this is like destroy the vision. And even my friend said something like, when you talk to projects, like, you cannot tell, like, when you talk to someone because you need something, don't tell them you are from crypto, because they will charge you
Mm.
triple. Like, this is so I'm pretty sure that was
Yeah.
also the case, because everyone knew the crypto throwing the money at people. And this is this other reality, right? You coming from the $50 billion ecosystem to 300 million, $200 million
Yeah.
ecosystem, and it's like, so there was Terra Spaces. I think he's actually a great guy, but I saw also in this Terra Dev
Mm.
Fund, right, like he asked for 7K a month because he was the and he do great job with this audience, like storing them.
Yeah.
But it's like fucking 7K, like, I don't make it. And it's like, so it
Yeah.
makes you kind of bitter, but I understand he was coming from the place where they had so much money to throw at people.
100%.
Patrick, like, by the way, like, I never actually, like, I'm doing this because I like it. So like I'm trying to get
Mm.
engaged. So like I'm not coming from the rich ecosystem. So it's also like the different
It's
thing.
tough, right?
And I think, because what I do, like, I feel I'm more focused on actually building the Don Kryptonium brand than,
Yeah.
like, fulfilling. So like this is my strategy. But like I find
I
out,
think
like,
you raised something really important, though. I think what you raised is super important, that I think is something
Mhm.
that's really hard. When you have money and you've come from a place that's like money is plentiful, it's a lot
Yeah,
harder if you go to an ecosystem where like there was liquidity on Terra as well, right? And we've come to an
yeah.
ecosystem that maybe doesn't have it. And it can be a little bit demoralizing or a little bit harder to kind of like adjust. And
Mhm.
even if you look at like salaries, I know that, there's always questioning how much people get paid in certain circumstances and things like that. You'll find that like in certain ecosystems that like raise a lot of capital, the salaries are typically a lot higher. Like I've friends from
Mhm.
cross chain kind of projects that raised like $30 billion in the bull run. Like their salaries, like people are getting paid a lot more. Also depends on like the locations in the world that they're from, right?
Yeah.
Anyone that's from California employed in a crypto project, it's not worth like, I've got a very good friend of mine who's looking to get into crypto, but she's making, in her normal job, making like 25K a month, right?
Mhm.
And that's just kind of a normal salary. It's like there's no crypto project out there that can hire her to that salary because it's just too high,
Yeah.
right? So you can make money in tokens, but these people kind of have this specific life or they come from a place. It's
Mhm.
it's a, it's it's a different viewpoint or angle. If you're used to making 4K or 3K a month, and then compared to like, it was funny when I actually moved in. When I went into Loop, I actually went backwards in terms of like I
Mhm.
accepted a much lower salary than what I
Mhm.
was making before. I was making pretty decent money outside of
Yeah.
outside of Loop, and but I saw like the potential for, hey, I'll take a lower cash salary and tokens to
Mhm.
because I know that if I can build something great, I can actually make more money. And it's not just about the money; there's the enjoyment of building, but there's almost this like sacrifice to be like having to take this little bit more of a sacrifice to actually have a potential to build something
Mhm.
great. But it doesn't always pan out, and we in the startup world, and I think this is something that crypto doesn't always realize is that there's failures in the startup world in traditional finance. These businesses fail all the time. And
Mhm.
the problem in crypto is when they do fail, right? It's sometimes a rug or a slow rug or whatever it is, right? But companies do fail for whatever reason they are. And I'm not talking about like failure or anything, but I'm just saying like it is a funny kind of what you said is quite funny with the different worlds, right? Coming for money versus not.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident. Probably like Solana devs make like 50 to 100K a month. Like I'm pretty confident that this is the money paid in San Francisco
Yeah,
for some of
they're
these devs.
expensive, man. They're
And this is
expensive. Like my head dev for Clips is like 180K a month. And he
fucking.
like that was a pay cut for him, right? But he's also one of the guys that built Phantom blockchain and is like used to getting tons of money, right? So it's really funny because I actually see like there's obviously a lot of devs within Cosmos that are used to like grinding or bootstrapping, but someone who's been in dev or crypto for a long time, maybe seasoned in smart chain like development or whatever it is, they're used to getting massive salaries. If you worked on ETH, you're getting 300K, right? Three and a half,
I just
So it's quite interesting, right?
rag them, Simon. Rag them. Don't. You know what you do? You go and you search for devs in places that are not in US, not in California. Like you search for devs in like even Poland. Like there's
Yeah,
like if
yeah, yeah.
5K a month, it will be like good. And I know great devs. Like like
Yeah,
you
I'm
look.
actually
I tell
for
you.
future hires. Sorry,
Go
keep
on.
going. I said for future hires, like I actually was talking to this with the Juno core team and stuff. I'm really looking to bring in like Juno and Cosmos community from a dev perspective because I think it's not just about like hiring the talent that's there, but it's also like bringing the community in on board on what you're doing is super important. So I think that's huge. I think in this instance, like sometimes someone is worth a bigger hire, right? There's sometimes like, there's a girl I'm bringing on a COO. She's like, what, going to be fairly expensive, 150K a year. She's worth 4 hires. She was operations manager at Uber, right?
Mhm.
In the UK. So sometimes people are worth 3 or 4 hires, and sometimes there is gold mines of people that are like cheap and they're actually like really, really good. And they maybe just haven't got the experience of working at a high level to like,
Yeah.
earn more. But if you're hiring someone from anyone from ETH or who's built blockchains or done stuff, they're used to getting such a much higher level of money that for them to actually go lower is a lot drop in lifestyle. So and some of them, like I would say that my head dev is worth like the money in terms of like skills and abilities. But it is definitely funny that you can kind of like build and bootstrap a lot more of cheaper devs, right?
Yeah, like you can, I'm friend. I call him friend with very young guy. He make few K. He's senior dev, and he is like he's prodigy. You know what I mean? He's like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
not that, like, he's very young, but he's the guy who can build whole blockchains. Like, this is,
Mm,
and he make very little money. He come from like
mm.
the poor country and stuff like this. So you have disparity, and sometimes maybe
Yeah,
laziness of the teams. I'm going to San Francisco. There is a lot of devs. You find them like this, but there is plenty of
yeah,
other
for
devs.
sure.
So I hope at some
And it's sometimes
point.
a gamble. Sometimes it's hard, right? Like, it's really hard
Mhm,
to, like, I mean, certain countries, I think, Ukraine, Poland, probably some really good devs there, but it's sometimes tough.
mhm,
Like, if you're a business owner and you're looking to vet people, you're looking to find people, like, if you find someone who's had a lot of strong track record of building
mhm,
blockchains or doing this sort of stuff, it's a lot easier to go, hey, this person is like, has built this, helped build this blockchain. I know their
mhm.
experience, I know their ability to work, and it's easy, right? But yeah.
Yeah, Patrick knows. Like, yeah, like I'm not like he's been on my channel. Great boy. He actually like looking for a job all the time, like because he's supporting his family.
For
So
sure.
yeah,
But
there's
keep in mind as well, wait, keep in mind 180K isn't that much money. It seems like a lot, but if you've been in crypto for quite a long time, and you've been through raises and you've been through like the market, or you've kind of worked maybe in corporate, or you've worked in like
Mhm,
if you've lived in like US or you worked anywhere, 180K is not a significant
mhm,
amount of money. Like if you get a good COO or good CMO or something in the corporate
mhm.
world, they're going to cost you 150, 180K
Oh,
normally, right? So
okay,
it's not
so
as much as
I will tell you something. Okay, so sorry for stopping you. I
yeah, no, it's fine, keep
understand
going, sorry.
I understand the place you come from, saying it's not a lot of money, because I know the money is thrown everywhere. And it started this trend with like new tech word, Amazon, Facebook,
Mm,
and stuff like this.
yeah,
But 180K is a lot of money. I don't work on this money. I work on the like very little fraction of this money. And like not
yeah,
even work. The money that I make from courses, I just like never really cared about money. For me, it's like if I have enough
yeah,
money, like to leave, I don't go for these parties where I throw credit card and 3K
sure,
for a champagne. But there are people who live this way, and then they will be this
yep,
money is not a lot, but there are people who can live on 3K a month because they just don't do that shit. So this is a lot of
yep,
money, and a lot of money who also listen to this chat that we are having. They hear 180K and they're like, "Fucking hell! I'm working in like car wash,
mhm.
like, and I'm not making."
I was
So
there.
there's
I've done
different.
that. I've actually been there as well. Like,
Yeah.
I've worked at a like, I know what it's like to live off $300 a
And
week, and do that. But I think it depends on what you're comparing it to as well. If you wanna hire an
yeah.
executive from a specific from TradFi, for example, you're gonna have to spend a certain amount of money to get
Mhm.
to acquire that talent, right?
Yeah, so
Um, yeah,
I totally understand that, but I'm actually feeling that we've been having extraordinary tech boom since 2008. Like the
yeah,
salaries like went so much in this spaces. Like it's insane to even like measure that. And it was like 14-year growth all the time. And you even see on TikTok this video like, hey, I'm the marketing director at Meta. and you see this person streaming their life, and that, she doesn't do anything. She was hired because she's a woman, and this like and these
Yeah.
nerds, they want to hire some women because there is a lot of cash at the company they can throw. And my question
Yep.
is, I hope we're going to go into a fucking 5 year old long recession, and this is
Mm.
gonna drain to give us some, like, maybe not hope, because I'm wishing bad to people saying that. So it's not about this, but I think the result and the salaries, sorry, the result of where we landed with the salaries and everything, is the result of this 14-year boom, but
Yeah,
nothing
for
lasts
sure.
forever. And I think that might actually, we might have a shift where the money is tight, and then the San Francisco companies will be like, I'm not
Yeah.
hiring you, bitch, because there is this boy like from other country who is taking like
Mm.
20% of your salary, and he's doing 3 times your job, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know
for sure.
what future will bring, but I might see that. Like, so maybe people will disagree.
Uh,
Hmm. But
no,
I do
I agree
under.
with you in a way. If you're able to find those people, I think it's really
Yeah.
beneficial, right? Like if you can bootstrap your company and you can find those
Mhm.
talent, I think that's
Yeah.
massive, right?
Yeah.
But then there's also like sometimes it's this juggle between, are you hiring a seasoned, experienced person that has a really
Mhm.
strong record in a specific industry? Then you're going to have to pay that person. Like that person's not going to take. Chances are that person's not going to take 50K a year, right?
Mhm.
So it's this funny juggle, right? But yeah, I see what you're saying. I totally
Yeah.
understand.
Well, because the fact is, like, if you are like senior dev at Facebook, like, you can drive Ferrari. Like that's the reality that maybe many people don't get. That these people earn like half to 1 million a year, and if you buy Porsche yourself, that's not a flex, because every single person in Silicon Valley can afford a Porsche easily, right?
Yeah,
That's the world we live in. And I see crypto as the great thing of globalization, because now if you get engaged from different country, you see that, um, it's global. The crypto is actually global,
for sure.
so we might have some shift. Look, we are close to 2 hours. And
I know. It's been a good chat though.
yeah, like I'm enjoying this a lot. Like, look, to finish, can you give me like your favorite uh Cosmos chains for people? People always like to listen. Like, what's the favorite chain? Maybe something you like in the Cosmos ecosystem.
Kind of. I don't mind what Say Network is doing. I'm interested to kind of see how that develops.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Say
mean, I'm
network.
interested to Say Network. They've taken a bit of a different track, and I'm kind of interested to see kind of how that develops.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really like what Passage is doing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very good friends with the guys from Passage 3D,
Mm-hmm.
and I what they're doing is quite ambitious, but I actually really like what they're doing. They brought on like a pretty good CEO from who was ex Engine COO, Caleb Abigail, who's got a really good reputation in the space. I've talked to different VCs and different like kind of people that know him, and he brings a lot of experience. So someone like that is a great hire up because they bring so much like drive and experience and
Mm-hmm.
contacts and stuff behind them. So I really, yeah, that's they're one that I'm really looking out for. Like Passage is something I'm super excited for. And yeah,
Yeah, so we have Say is just smart contract platform, or they do anything else. I don't know what Say doing.
yeah,
Like, I
they ha-
heard of them.
they have there's some specific stuff like they're really focusing on being like a trading chain. They've
Mhm.
got like a really, I think they've got like really fast block speeds, and they've got some like specific infrastructure behind Say that makes it a lot easier for like DeFi and composability. So even though it's not going to be, I think it's not going to be like your retail chain as much. I see it like they're going to build out a lot of like kind of a lot of trading specific products and protocols,
Mhm.
like different order books and money markets and different things. I think maybe even maybe they're building a like a FX market and stuff. I'm not
Mhm.
100%, but there's a couple cool things. So I'm keeping my eye on that. They've got like some decent commitments there too, so that could be exciting. But yeah, they're worth keeping an eye on. Whether that like goes really well or not, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, kind of
Yeah,
keen to keep watching that.
I'm on the page now. Like, is it like, can you go with like, I don't know, because Tendermint consensus has like 6 second blocks, but you can somehow optimize that, right? Like, so they still using Tendermint, I guess, but they optimize
Yeah,
it because.
so they are. Yeah, you can actually bring it down to 1.5 seconds, I think it is. It takes a few things. They have got a lot of like custom code, to my knowledge. Like this is as far as like my tech understanding goes. I've talked to some more techie people that understand it a
Yeah.
bit better than me.
Okay, they claim 0.6 second.
Wow,
Wow. So they
that'll be
compare like
interesting.
the Bitcoin has like 60 minutes finality, Ethereum 6 minutes. Ethereum is faster. Like actually, when you send, it's like sometimes depends on the. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Sometimes I feel it's faster than 6 minutes. Solana 2.5 and say
Mhm.
says it's like 0.6 second, and they have like
Is
good
it?
VCs, right? Like I mean, like some
Yeah,
like Coinbase, Delphi, Digital, multi-coin capital. So the good guys,
yeah.
but like not everyone likes them also, right? Like not
No, no.
everyone
But
wants
Multicoin, like I had mixed feelings about Multicoin because they were very behind Solana. But I've talked to a lot of people that have said that Multicoin is actually a decent VC, even though like I had kind of mixed thoughts about them due to like the Solana thing. I've talked to people that said that then they don't dump and they back their projects,
Mhm.
which I guess is like a good what you're looking for in a VC. I mean, Coinbase Ventures. I mean, they're kind of you get those on your cap table for name brand. They don't really dump, but they don't really do much either. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like one of those things. Like you get them on your cap table. It's like just to kind of look pretty, or to say that you got Coinbase behind you.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but no, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens and comes out of it.
Mhm.
Things may shift a lot over the next. I'm actually talking to a chain called Hypersign that we might actually launch on Eclipse, and they
Yeah.
are quite interesting. They're building a ZK digital identity protocol. Um, I think they could package it maybe a bit better, but they'll enable for like on-chain KYC, but not like KYCing like government KYC, but more the ability to kind of like stop cyber stuff from airdrops. Like you'll be able to kind of like potentially like track like wallet behavior. You'll have kind of a persona or like almost like a soulbound token or something that enables you to kind of maybe airdrop to a specific person that has good unchained
Mhm.
behavior or whatever it is. Like,
Mhm.
so it'd be kind of interesting. Some cool stuff that can be done with that. I think we'll use it in the launch pad a bit. I think it'll be cool
Mhm.
to kind of like go, hey, if a wallet is like really notorious for like dumping everything and not doing great, how do we kind of check that without like obviously being overbearing and kind of like reward good like investors versus like not as good
Mhm.
investors would be kind of
Mhm.
useful to have. I know it's kind of blurs a line. Like even when I talk and think about it, it kind of blurs a line between like this moral kind of thing, which is like, what is good, what is bad. But I think, that's how you can kind of like incentivize people to specifically do like a specific thing. If they're dumping every airdrop, how do you kind of not exclude them or penalize them in that shape, as opposed to someone who's like really good and supports the ecosystem, right?
Yeah, like airdrops need to be scheduled a little bit better. I give you example Jackal, right? Like so I don't really like to have many networks. Like I actually like to have like 5 coins. So I got
Yeah,
Jackal, I want to dump it. Like because I
yeah,
just don't plan to participate. I'm not very active in secret and stuff like this. And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, I did this because I don't know nothing. Like I kept Tori. Like so sometimes and I just staked it, and compounded for the next 90 days because like sometimes I just like when it's maybe too little or whatever, or there is high APR, like that's the attraction, but that's also not sustainable. But like often I just dump it and it's like, hey, I made extra $100. I'm withdrawing it,
yeah,
right? Like it's like
yeah,
free money. Like why not? Especially I
yeah.
don't know which direction it will go. Look, Simon,
So
like
we're vesting
yeah, go
for
on.
clips. We're vesting for clips. We're vesting it in NFTs. So we're doing like you'll be able to dump the NFT on the secondary market, but you will have to like claim the tokens over a period of time. So actually, do you know Dragon Ball Z?
I'm huge fan of Dragon Ball, man. Like I'm like
Right. So we're doing a Dragon Ball airdrop. So we're actually going to be like 5 actions, and they're going to give you five. There's going to be 5 Dragon Balls. They're going to be Eclipse balls with like an Eclipse logo inside, and each one is going to contain a certain number of tokens. They'll be vested over a period of time. So you'll collect the Dragon Ball, and then you'll be able to either stake it and collect the tokens over the vesting period, or you'll be able
is
to
it
sell it on the
legal to do
secondary market.
like, or is
Hmm?
it like some, is it legal or there is some can be some legal issues from the Dragon Ball, or you just
No, no, no. It'll be fine. It would be. It won't be like it will be an Eclipse ball with a
right?
Eclipse
Yeah,
logo
yeah,
inside.
Yeah.
and it'll be fun because we then users won't be able to dump it all in one hit. So we'll have
Yeah.
staking available as soon as the airdrop's out anyway. But if you want to get cash and you don't want to hold your airdrop, then you can sell that on the secondary market. Someone else
Mhm.
could buy a vested position at a discount, and then you're transferring the value from people that don't want to hold the token to people that want to hold the token. So it's quite interesting.
um, sorry, my wait a second. Um, whatever. Now my wife texted me she's gonna eat at mom because she's hungry.
We can finish it up if you want. I know we've gone for like 2 hours or something. I can
Uh,
talk for like a long time. I've got another call in maybe like 15 minutes or so. So
yeah,
maybe
you are the
have some
first
food.
guy that can actually out talk me. But like um, yeah, like anyway, she's gonna eat there, so I'm gonna cook at home. But we should finish. I'm actually releasing the video in 50 minutes.
Mhm.
I'm shitting on Safe Chain. I'm not sure if you heard of it.
Yeah.
Do you know Safe Chain?
I do know Sifchain. I don't know much about them, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's a whole nother can of worms.
how old are you? Because I think that's would explain Dragon Ball.
26?
Oh right. Like I'm older than human. Like I'm 32 this year. Shit, I'm
We
old
used to have the
guy.
mangas in France. When I grew up in France, we used to have the mangas. Like we used to have the yellow books, the ones that
Yeah.
you read back
So
the other way around. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Big
as
fan.
the child, I used to watch a lot of Dragon Ball, and I was buying. I actually have first edition Polish Dragon Ball manga. And like,
Wow.
did you watch Dragon Ball Super?
I never watched Dragon Ball as like a
And
video. I just had the
oh,
books. Like I had the
oh,
mangas,
manga. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
then the mangas, and I think the game came out on PS2, and we
Right.
played like I remember that we didn't have a TV when I grew up, but a neighbor did. Um, and so we used to go over to his sometimes every like once a month, and he had the Dragon Ball PS2 with the
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z game, the 3D one,
But
and
there is
sometimes
also,
played.
if you read all manga, there is new manga Dragon Ball Super, and it's like kind of continuation.
Right.
I bought myself some.
Haven't touched it for a long time. Like this is when I was a kid, but I still like think about it. And I thought like, well, what would be cool as an NFT? Like everybody just does the same thing, right? Like, so how
Yeah,
do we play with this NFT thing and make it fun? And it's about like collecting the Dragon
mm,
Balls, right? So you're
yeah,
actually collecting these NFTs that have tokens attached. And then you could like sell them on the secondary market. And, potentially it depends on art stuff, but each community could potentially have its own specific flair. Like if
yeah,
we're doing an airdrop to Rect Wolf, for example, how can we like put it in a wolf's mouth, for example, right? So
yeah,
just kind of play with stuff, make it more fun and exciting because it's just boring
yeah.
otherwise. You know.
Look, Simon, it was huge pleasure talking to you. We maybe I guess we will do it again. Like I'm gonna drop and call my wife, so maybe I can caught her for some food. It's like 8
Yep.
8 p.m. here is the time. It's
Yeah.
is it the same
Same.
time
Yeah.
or what time is
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. It's same. Yeah. Eight
Yeah.
twelve. 8:12 here at the moment.
And maybe if we fly to Bali, we can hang out. It's four
Do it.
hours flight from Hong Kong, so it's like
Do it.
well,
If let's catch up if you come to Bali, man. Like show you some
yeah.
good restaurants and some good places. It's beautiful here, so
Yeah,
it's
we
definitely a
we
place
love
to visit.
Bali. As I said, we love Bali. Well, one, like you were in Colombia, right? And the thing
Medellin, yeah.
is, the so I was in like Central America. It was Mexico, but I imagine it the same. Like I traveled with my wife there. They can't hotel there. They can't do hotels there the way they people do hotels in Bali or Thailand. It's just like it's like I
Mm.
think like only Americans can enjoy Mexico because maybe they don't go Asia. Not sure what's your impression.
Mm.
Like
I don't know. Colombia was pretty nice. I mean, when
yeah,
we were in Colombia, I think we stayed at the Intercontinental, which was the one where the
mhm,
conference was having, and that was a very nice hotel.
yeah,
But I think the difference maybe is not the facilities. I think in Bali they're a lot more friendly. Like the people are a lot more
yeah,
hospitable in general.
yeah,
I mean, obviously sometimes the facilities in Bali are interesting about the hotels. You stay at a hotel and then like the water will not work, even though it's like a 4-star hotel. You'll be like, what the heck?
yeah, yeah,
But the people are really like friendly, and it is very like very hospitable in terms of like they
yeah,
want you to have like the best possible experience. And I think
yeah.
that's
Like
something
very
you
nice
don't get
people
everywhere.
in Bali. I love that. Yeah, it's really cool.
Sweet.
Um, Anyway, I'm gonna run. Thank you again. Thank you everyone who come here. I always forget, it's very important for people. Someone in Cosmos, I see there is no trend. When people watch live stream in Cosmos, they don't hit the like button, which is like huge. Like people don't do that, but that actually helps. But anyway, Simon, pleasure. Thank you
If you're
for your
watching on
time.
YouTube as well, make sure to like and subscribe too, right?
Yes, like that's 2 hours in. So like if people will hear that, like they will be watching, like that's a little late. But it's very important when you make the video, like I realize it actually works. You need to say within the first minute, make sure you like this video, make it clear, and people actually like it. So before I wasn't doing this, I was getting much less likes. So that and it's important for like reach later. Oh, thank you. Thank you,
Simon
Ronald.
had a shirt on.
And
My shirt is always like always half hanging off anyway here. It's the trend.
it's the Bali vibe, right? But okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
very much.
Simon,
Cool.
thank you.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure, man. Let's keep chatting and talk to you later, man.
Yeah. All the best. Take care. Bye bye.